jumping joy of the prospect of being our secretary for today's meeting. But we're going to need someone who has the ability to take notes and concise notes of what's going on. It doesn't have to be a member of council. It can be someone from the gallery. But any member of council who will be the secretary for today, they won't lose their voting rights, because that's what it says in the union rules policy. So I guess I'll solicit nominations for anyone who wants to be the secretary for today's meeting. John.
I nominate William Coney.
Do you accept William?
No.
Anyone else? We need a secretary to proceed. And I'm prepared to sit through as much awkward silence as is necessary before someone steps up to the plate.
I don't have a computer here, but I would do it.
Is someone willing to give Alex their computer? Because I don't feel comfortable asking you to take it by hand.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah. I mean, no, you can use my computer.
Okay.
You'll just have to plug it in. So, are there any further nominations for the secretary? Any further nominations for a secretary for today? Any further nominations? Okay. Temperature check on whether or not you want him to give a short speech. Yes or no? Okay. So by acclamation, Alex, thank you for stepping up to the plate.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there anything you should know about what's involved in
It's a good question.
for
Absolutely.
a DSU council meeting?
Have you?
No, I will write down everything you say, though.
Have you had the opportunity to read like any minutes in the past?
No.
Okay.
If anybody is more qualified and feels like they want to do it, then they can
Sir,
also.
I'm not challenging you. I just
no,
want to make
that's
sure.
okay.
Like, are there any requirements for like how formats or like?
What I'll do is I'm going to set you up right here, and I'm going to show you sample minutes. Okay. And by the time we get done roll call, hopefully you can get an idea of what's going on here. So just take them down, just use that document. And these are the minutes. So I'm going to give you some power, and then once we're done roll call, we'll just give you an idea of
Cool, thank you.
maybe you can sit over here then.
Oh, this power button.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
And there might be occasional like terms and things that I don't really know what they mean. So if I'm asking a lot of questions, that's all right.
We'll all have to bear with like a slightly less than ideal situation here, but I have no doubt that Alex can do a great job here. And if we need to slow down just so that you can take it down, then just give me a tap or give me a heads up. And yeah, we'll get this done. Okay. So Rand Aziz, the president, is here. Jacqueline Skatunis, VP Academic, send her regrets. Mabu Rahman, VP FO, is here. Danny Shanahan, VP Student Life, is here. Jen Novoselsky, VP Internal, is here. Yuzan Materia, member at large, has a midterm. I'd like to welcome Scott Reardon for Aaron Beal, the member at large, the proxy. Basma El-Hulemi is here. Hello. Ali Caladine. Oh, right, that was your proxy. Okay. So you will still have voting rights on Ali's behalf. Taylor Quinn, it will be late. Dylan Lopandra will not be here today. Andrew Bucci is present. He is Senator. Rebecca Hayworth, Bogrub, is here. John Hutton, Bogrub, is here. Alex Killam, Women's Community Rep, is here. Michael Davies Cole, Black Students Rep, is here. Derek Rogers, Dalab Rep, is here. Michelle Martin, Aboriginal Students Rep, Center Regrets. Amar Al Kashab, DISA Rep, is here. Giovanna Celli will not be here. Still haven't heard back from the Residents' Council as to who their reps are going to be, but I think that there's supposed to be some sort of meeting with the Residents' Committee Council about that in the near future. Jomel Vargas, Sexton Campus Director, is here. Caitlin Lowe, DAS President, is here. Christine Rankin, DAS VPI, is here. Amelia Kenzie, DSS VP, is here. Rogan Carruthers, DSS Rep, is here. Hannah Klug, DUS President, is here. Cindy Miller, Engineering Rep, Center Regrets. Do we have an architecture rep with us today? Aaron and or Ute? Anyone know where either of those humans are? Chris Pervin, the computer science rep. Anyone know where Chris might be? Mackenzie Arnold, management reps here. Hema Merton, commerce reps here. Jasmine Prue? Right. Is here. Lee Staples, the law rep, is here. Did I see Charlotte somewhere? Or
Yep.
yes, Tom. Tom, the dentistry rep, is here. Emily Whalen will not be here. Nazneen Sultana, DAG's president, Center Regrets, and Vishwa Patel, the DAG's rep. Anyone know where Vishwa is? Okay, let's get started. Is there any business arising out of the agenda? Yes, Jamal?
I would like to add a motion to approve the amendments to SAC policy, which was an old business item and is not here.
That was automatically tabled, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To the next meeting. So you have my apologies for adding that to the council. Shoot. So you won't need a motion to add that. It's automatically tabled. It was just my oversight in adding it. The only question is where it's going to be. It's going to be after the elections policy. So it's not section or item 9G. Okay, and all councillors will have had the changes to those policies. So it's just my oversight for not adding it to the agenda. Yes, Caitlin.
I was just going to say, I would like to make an amendment to appointments, and if Malik is here, to add a non-councillor member to the Executive Review Committee.
Right, so you want to add the appointment of the non-exec member of the ERC to the agenda.
Yes, if Malik is here.
Does the motion have a seconder? Amelia? Is there any discussion around that? So Caitlin wants to add the nomination of the non-exec member of the ERC to the agenda. Did you have your hand there, Hannah?
No.
No. Is there any discussion around this?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty incapable at this job at the moment. If anybody else, again, would love to do this, I'm pretty much like, I'm very much not, but I don't know everybody's names, so I really can't do this without knowing people's names.
We have the cards here, so it's not necessary that you have people's names. If that's your only concern, then I would say just have a look at people's cards, and maybe people could just turn them so that Alex can see them.
Okay.
Otherwise, if somebody,
If that's your only concern,
It's also being videotaped.
Cool,
So,
yeah,
like,
so,
do your best.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
always like transcribe them.
I
yeah.
apologize for interrupting.
No. Because Chloe always looks at the video, right? In case there's something that she didn't catch.
Cool.
And I mean, Chloe, I have no complaints about those minutes. So if you do half the job she does, then that's.
I'll do like a quarter. Okay, sorry.
So there's no discussion around adding the appointment of the non-exec member of the ERC to the agenda. I see none. We'll move to a vote to add that to the agenda. All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Is there any other business arising out of the agenda? William?
Currently, the agenda has the first motion of it, specifically the amendment of the part 2D
Of council policy, yeah.
That is not held on anything yet? It's not present.
Normally would be the proxy that could speak to that, but
Sorry,
we're in a different situation here, aren't we? So a couple of weeks ago, we'll deal with this now. A couple of weeks ago, or a couple of meetings ago, there was some discussion around whether or not councillors should be submitting a written report to the chair. Does everyone remember that discussion we had? Okay, so this was an amendment to council policy. So Ali moved that. Ali's not here. In her absence, it would go to her proxy, who is now our secretary. But the way that this works is that anyone who wants to speak to it has to be able to understand what they're talking about. I mean, I don't want to put Alex on the spot, but I also don't want to have a discussion where the mover hasn't read the council package and doesn't necessarily know what's going on. So I'm not going to ask, and especially because Alex is the secretary, I'm not going to ask him to do that. So maybe now I'll ask if anyone wants to take care of that motion. Caitlin, is that what you want to do?
I'm just trying to pull up the original motion.
It's simply on the council package. It was short enough that I could include it on page 10 there, at the bottom of page 10, and the top of page 11. Right there.
Oh yeah, perfect. I definitely feel comfortable speaking to that.
Okay. Does anyone want to second that? Amber? So, does anyone else want to speak to that? Is anyone opposed to Caitlin taking care of that? I mean, this is not a long discussion that we're going to have. Maybe I suspect no more than 10 minutes. Okay. So if no one's opposed, then Caitlin will simply take care of that and can start debate on it. Okay, that's fine. Is there any other business arising out of the agenda? Hannah?
I have a question about the sexism and racism amendment. Was Jacqueline motioning that since she's not here, and also did we receive anything that we are the motion that we're voting on?
So I didn't receive any policy. It was my understanding that she's still doing some consultation around the policy, and because she's not here, it'll be automatically tabled until the next meeting. So we can have a discussion around it next meeting. Joe?
Can I make a motion to table that indefinitely until there's actually something to send to council? I think it might make more sense than having to do this every meeting until there's actually something amended.
So Robert's Rules Section 15G requires that any tabling motion has to be to a set date or event.
The event that we receive something?
So to table something indefinitely would be out of order. Did you have a hand there, Rams?
No.
No? Caitlin, yeah.
Motion to table it until we actually receive a motion sent out to councillors.
Next council.
So you want to table it until such time as Jacqueline actually forwards the chair the text of the policy. Okay. And so it'll be automatically placed on the agenda once I get her policy. Okay, so that's in order. Does that have a seconder? Rebecca? Any discussion on that? Would anyone really like to talk about it today? Okay. Is anyone opposed to tabling the motion in that manner until such time as I actually get the policy? If so, Michael. Oh, you're opposed. Okay, we'll have a vote on it then. So, is there any further discussion on this then? Okay, so the question is whether to table Jacqueline's motion to adopt a policy concerning sexism and racism until a time when she sends the chair the text of that motion. So all those in favor of tabling the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Okay, Michael. All right, so that motion has been tabled. Is there any other business arising out of the agenda? So I have a question. So who here sits on the Advocacy Review Committee? Okay. It was my understanding that Jacqueline wanted to ratify the position of chair on that committee. Has she had any discussion with you about that? No?
We don't even have the positions on the committee and not fully filled up. Still have some vacant positions on the committee. So.
Who are the vacant positions?
I don't know.
But there are vacant positions on the committee.
I think I'm actually talking about the other committee.
The academic external affairs. Okay. Amr, you're not the only one on the advocacy planning committee.
Giovanna was
Yeah.
also there, but I'm not sure if she is still there.
Okay. Who else is on the committee? Okay. So no one else here is on the committee. All right. Well, I'm not comfortable then with moving to ratify the position of chair. That's what Jacqueline wanted me to do, but she's not even here. So, is there any other business arising out of the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to a vote to adopt the agenda as a whole. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. I neglected to recognize a point of order from William, I guess.
Sorry, just inquiring about the last meeting we tabled, or you all tabled the where is it? You all tabled the.
Thank you.
It's in the minutes.
Speak up, will you?
Sorry, you all tabled the motions. Some of the motions you tabled at the last meeting were ones to talk about at last meeting and then to like have them adopted at a subsequent meeting. If they were tabled for discussion at this meeting, are all the motions that are currently listed in that package are to adopt. So I just want to.
So if you look, the video of the October 22nd meeting is online. If you go at the end of the meeting to the notice of motion, you'll see that Rams table all of them for vote. They weren't tabled for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even the ones that were supposed to come out of the discussion at the last meeting were tabled for.
No other policies were tabled for discussion. That's correct.
Okay. Cool.
Rams.
I'd like to motion to adopt the amendments to the elections policy.
That comes later.
Okay.
So Rams is asking about. Rams has a point about the elections policy. We'll get to that after we deal with any other business arising on the agenda. So is there any other business arising on the agenda? Okay, so Sino, no.
Can I move agenda item G after agenda item? I'm sorry. Can I move the motion to approve the SAC policy after B?
Okay.
I mean, we're not discussing on B anymore. This sexism and racism.
That's correct.
I would say after A.
So that's fine. Does that motion have a seconder? Hannah? Okay, so you just want to talk about 9G before we talk about any the other policies?
After A.
Yeah, after A. So, I mean, is there any discussion on that? I mean, it was my understanding that C, D, and E were simply going to be tabled. So, to be honest, it's kind of, well, it's not moved because we would end up talking about it before elections policy. So given, maybe I shouldn't speak any further. Hannah?
I have a point of information about the tabling you mentioned.
Yeah. Maybe you want to speak to that, Rams?
Yes, Bob's wasn't able to review the council, review those policies, so the council can still view them tonight, but they wouldn't be approved by Bob's.
I would like to motion to move those to discussion items.
I would say that that's not in order because that's not in the nature. It's in the nature of amending the motion itself, right, to remove the vote. So either we vote on them today, okay, or they're tabled. So that motion's out of order. Alex.
Sorry, the motion as Jamel, just we have to vote on that, or that?
That's correct. You're quite right. So is there any discussion on moving 9G after 9A? Is there any further discussion on that? Like, is anyone opposed to doing that? Okay, so we'll simply talk about the amendments to the SAC committee after the amendment to council policy. Okay, is there any other business rising out of the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a vote to adopt the agenda as a whole. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Is there any business arising out of the minutes of October 22nd? Like, would anyone? Yes, or right?
I just have one edit to make. It refers to someone named Caroline Waters, so I think Carolyn Waters. Just like throughout, just this stuff.
I'll make a note of that. Is there any other business arising out of these minutes? Is anyone opposed to adopting the minutes and putting them on the website? Okay.
I abstain.
Okay, we'll have a vote then. So, seeing as there's no further discussion on the minutes, on business arising out of the minutes, we'll move to a vote whether or not to adopt them and put them on the website. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Would anyone like their abstentions noted in the minutes? Yep. Hannah, Amber, and Hema.
Amber,
And Hannah. Those names all sound similar, I know. Okay. Communications received. Now is the time, Rams, to talk about the elections policy. So I did not receive the amended elections policy as amended by Bob's by Sunday at 6:30. So I was unable to circulate that policy to councillors along with the rest of the council package. We have an amended elections policy as amended by Bob's, and the question is whether we're going to be working from that text as opposed to the text that councillors have already received.
who's Bob's?
Bob's is the Board of Operations, and they're another I guess quasi-legislative part of the student government. Yeah, it's chaired by Ali.
Great.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, Rams.
Yes, so the Board of Operations met on Thursday, so the night before Halloween, to basically go over the elections policy changes, which are actually summarized in a document, which I would request the chair circulate to you folks. It breaks it down quite easily which clauses were the ones that Board of Operations was debating on. So most of them actually were pertaining to the VPFO election process. So the Board of Operations had recommendations to make, and those recommendations have been added to the amendments that were already sent to you 2 weeks ago. So there's like it's basically the version that Andrew has now has the Board of Operations recommendations integrated into the policy.
So there's a reason behind the whole notice of agenda items, and that's so that councillors can be apprised of these changes in advance of a council meeting. So if you're upset that you haven't received the amended elections policy until the 11th hour, then you can vote no on this motion. But it requires a 2/3 majority to adopt. So is there any further discussion around me hitting send on this email and sending you the elections policy page? Okay, Rams.
I would just say I would request that you allow the chair to actually send out the document, because if you feel that in the summary document their changes are too expansive, then you can feel free to. But otherwise, I think they're minute enough that shouldn't be anything drastic from what you got two weeks ago.
So is there any further discussion around this? Scott?
Point of information, will you send it to proxies?
Do I have your email?
No.
What's your email?
LMP@Dell.
Maybe you shouldn't, if you're not comfortable with saying it all, maybe you'll.
LMP@Dell.ca.
LMP, that's it?
That's another one, it's easier.
That's an awesome email. What's your, write down your.
Yeah.
Do I have everyone's email here? Yeah. Did you have a point, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel particularly comfortable voting on policy changes that we haven't received until like after the start of the meeting. I think it's hard to notice the details that have been changed during the meeting.
Yeah.
If we find the changes are too far from what we've already discussed at council, hypothetically with the potential of the DSU VPFO being changed to an elected position, then we can table to vote on that next time.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, so seeing none, we'll move to vote whether or not to circulate the amended text of the elections policy as approved by Bob's, and it will require a 2/3 majority to pass. So does everyone understand what we're voting on?
Just a little bit more. So if you send them to us, and we decide that if we don't have enough time to fully digest them, we can table it. Yeah.
That's correct. Rams?
So let me summarize what you'll be receiving. You'll be receiving an updated document with the updated version of the elections policy. In addition to that, you'll be receiving a document that summarizes all the changes Bob's made, so it'll help you navigate.
So, yes, Hannah?
This is not maybe irrelevant now, but could we maybe just recess for like 5 minutes before we get to that part of the agenda so we can all read it, so we're not having to try and read it now?
So you want to recess right before we talk about the elections policy? Okay, remind me that you want to do that right before that happens. Okay, is there any further discussion around this? Okay, so seeing now, we'll move to a vote whether or not to circulate the elections policy, the latest amendment as approved by Bob's, and will require 2/3 majority. So all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Okay. Okay. So I just sent that. The second communication that I received is a decision from the Judicial Board concerning whether or not the chair is compelled to vote in the case of a tie. This decision was handed down September. When was it handed down? About a week ago?
Yeah.
Okay. It's very straightforward. It's only 4 pages. So I'm not going to ask for a vote on whether you should receive it. I just want to let you know that this is something that happened. William.
If this decision was made in September, why wasn't this communication?
No, it wasn't made in September. When was it handed down, Rams?
A couple of weeks ago, and it's on the DSU website now, so you can go download it.
It is on the DSU website.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. What was that, Hugh? So the chair, I guess, is compelled to vote in the case of a tie. That's pretty much what they said. Yeah, all right. Okay, so let's move on to the substantive portion of this meeting. So last week we appointed Shayla Jamali as one of the non-council members on the elections committee. And today we have to appoint at least 3 other members to this committee. I mean, I described the responsibilities last week. I don't think I'm going to go through it again. Do I see Dylan in the audience? No. That's fine, but we appointed. Or you just walked in. There you go. Excellent timing. So we're just appointing the elections, your committee members at this point. So I'll solicit nominations for members on the elections committee at this time. If anyone has any nominations.
You had 3, right? Aida?
Only councillors can make nominations. Only councillors can. He can speak, but only
Point of
councillors.
information, who is on the list that you had? There we go.
I'll nominate Courtney Taylor, Teresa Gorman, and
Hold on. What?
They all.
Courtney Taylor.
Yeah, Teresa Gorman,
You spell that?
I've got it.
Gorwin.
And was there anyone else?
Sarah Eskin.
Yeah. And? Anyone else?
No, that was the previous.
That's the 3? Okay. So I have confirmation from each of those individuals that they want to be on the committee. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations for the positions on the elections committee? Are there any further nominations? I have one little blurb from, I think it's Courtney, outlining her interest and qualifications to be on this committee. Temperature check. Would people like me to read it or not to read it? In my opinion, the people who want to read it prevail. So it's not a long email. actually it's from Sarah. To the DSU Council, my regrets to the board for being unable to make this meeting tonight. I would like to accept my nomination to the position of Deputy Recruitment Officer for this year's Dalhousie student elections. It is my hope to see the voter turnout raised and I'm more active and engaged in Dalhousie Student Union activities across all 3 campuses. I look forward to working with the DSU board, Dylan the CRO, and the Developing Elections Committee for next year's DSU election. Sincerely, Sarah Estrin. That is the only letter that I've received. Courtney and Teresa, I informed them that they had the chance to send me a little blurb, but I didn't receive anything. And so now we're in the position where councillors don't know what these people even look like, and they're the only nominees for the elections committee that we have. So,
Can Dylan speak up then?
Yeah, I can keep all of them.
Sure.
Well, okay. So I'll start with the 2 that were here, or send the thing. So Courtney is a link to Sexton. She's taking planning. All of her courses are on the Sexton campus, so I think that'd be important. I think bridging that gap. She's worked in the student union for years. She has great interpersonal skills and she's a great communicator. Tess, meanwhile, is a poli-sci student. She's super into elections, loves them, but she has great organizational skills and record keeping. The committee's going to need a secretary. She'd be great for that. So, trying to cover my bases.
I'm sure you all have many questions in your mind. Perhaps for Dylan,
Please.
Or for anyone else. Remember, this is the committee that's going to be regulating the elections. Rogan.
Have any of them had experience doing any form of election things before, like working with maybe some in Halifax community or previously with candidates?
That I'm not sure. I can't say they do, so
John?
I don't only know one of the candidates. That's Sarah, one of the tentative. She applied for the CRO position. We ended up choosing Dylan over her, but she also demonstrated some good qualities that I noticed. So I'm quite happy that she has applied for this position. She's a political science student, I think, and involved in a DSU election a couple years ago. She went away for a while. Some of the stuff she's into, she's really into things like using digital methods to reach students in elections. So she's really interested in the issues. And, yeah, glad to see her apply.
Scott?
Point of information. How do you plan on getting voters from the Truro campus?
they don't vote.
Do they not vote?
They don't
No.
vote.
John, who were you just speaking on behalf
Sarah
of?
Estrin.
Sarah.
Are there any other questions or concerns about this? William?
Why is Truro not voting?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Why is Truro not voting? Why is Truro campus not voting?
Oh, this is the point that not about the elections committee. Maybe we can deal with that after we finish this item. It's a bit off topic, right? We'll deal with it after we appoint this. So yes, Rogan.
Is there any way that we can like meet these people before we vote for them, or is that just kind of like a skill?
So I don't know why any of these people aren't here. Christine?
Just for a point of people not being here, I know earlier in the year we did elect people who could not make it, and I think it's a little unfair not to take previous elections into account.
Rams?
You can also ask that once they come up with a strategy, that they come present to you that strategy for the elections later.
Rebecca?
I've known Courtney, I think, since like junior high, high school, and I have no problem being in an election when she was on the committee for it. At least we know most of them.
Are there any other questions or concerns that people want to raise? Because if there aren't, then the section of the union rules concerning nominations doesn't provide for a vote in this instance. They're simply acclaimed if there are only the number of candidates, if there are only the number of nominees as there are a number of positions to be filled. So there's not actually going to be any vote on this unless council wants to direct me otherwise. So is there any other, Jamal?
I'm just curious, how many positions were filled in the last meeting and how many did not show up?
Shaila Jamali was the individual. She sat behind, this was at the Health Professions Lab. She was the lady from Bangladesh, right? The student from Bangladesh who gave a speech, and she was acclaimed. And the elections policy provides that there are 4 members. We appointed 1, and so there are 3 left to be appointed. And so that's the situation that we're in today. Rebecca.
Also point out, like, we've had 4 weeks to try and scrounge up people. Obviously, this is not like an awesome committee that everyone's jumping to be on. So we have 4 people now. It'd be nice for adults to be able to move on and start making plans.
Is there any further discussion on this? Well, then it's my pleasure to announce by acclamation Courtney Taylor, Teresa Borrowing, thank you, and Sarah Estrin as the new members of the Elections Committee. So Caitlin, now let's deal with, no, actually first we have to deal with William's issue here. The agriculture rep in Truro, it was my understanding that there was some issue with the video feed. That there was some issue about not being able to get a video feed in Truro.
Yes, and we fixed that issue, but now it's an issue of finding people to actually fill the council position. So I think there's still kind of
That still doesn't answer the voting of ag students in the general elections.
Do you have a hand, Scott?
Yeah. Does the student union not represent that campus as well?
Yes and no, in the sense that DASA is a completely separate entity, they're incorporated separately. But essentially they have handled their own affairs. The only reason we're involved is because of the health plan, and like we collect the fees and we just get them checked.
You had a question?
Could a student run in our election?
Because technically they don't pay our member fees.
Andrew?
Have they indicated a desire to want to vote in our election? So they don't care.
If they don't pay our member fees, how do they have a position on this council?
Because they're in a very unique situation. So in the sense that they are under our umbrella, but they're almost like a very large type 1, except larger, like except they run the entire campus. So it's pretty unique, and that's why the unique clause has to be put on our society policy. And in fact, we're signing an MOU with them around how unique the situation is, which after they become incorporated will be official.
I don't know if satisfied is the right word, but are you, like, do you have any other questions around that, Taylor? Or William? Taylor just walked in. Like, are you satisfied with that, or?
No, but
that's why satisfied is not the right word. Are you? You're not going to ask? Okay, we can move on with the agenda. Can I move on with the agenda? Is a real question. Okay, so, Caitlin, let's talk about the ERC.
Okay, so according to Committee Policy for Elections Review Committee, I can pull it up somewhere in my stack of papers. Essentially, there's a position for a non-councillor member of the union to sit on ERC. Malik has come forward to ROM asking to be involved in the union. I spoke to Malik, and he's really interested in joining the Executive Review Committee. We have our fall review coming up for the last meeting. The last meeting of the fall term. And it would be really great to get him on board now so we can get the review process going again.
I mean, I know that we had a report from the ERC in September, but maybe you could just remind councillors like what the ERC does.
Oh, we're the Executive Review Committee. Essentially, we evaluate the DSU executive to make sure they are fulfilling their constitutional duties, and by extension, we have been evaluating council as a whole and making recommendations so that we can improve ourselves overall as a body.
Yes, Moo.
So in the previous a non-council member resigned, or do you want to extend?
Saeed has, I haven't been able to contact him. I'm still he's more than welcome on the committee, but technically his position ended in September because he was elected in May. So it's technically vacant.
So, can I ask?
Yeah.
So, are you comfortable with him, or you want to make it open because other non-council member might be interested in this position as well?
I am definitely more open to as many people that want to get involved in the ERC as possible.
You got a question, Alex?
No, I was going to say, so the person whose position ended in September, was it like they would just automatically be reappointed?
Yeah, in committee policy, all the positions that are elected for committees during the summer term automatically end come September, and so you have to reappoint all the committees essentially. And because the summer review had already ended, it was fine, but now that we're going into the fall review.
Hannah.
Sorry, did you say that there is one spot for a non-council member? Is it open to like more than one?
Technically, the policy, I'm actually amending that policy. It does not say like at least one member, it just says one. I interpret that as at least one, but it doesn't expressly say at least one. So that is up for interpretation on exactly how many non-councilors can sit on the committee, but I personally am open to having as many people as possible.
Hannah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would interpret one to be one, and I think that we should give the opportunity to advertise to others to.
So are you raising a point of order?
Yeah.
I agree with Hannah. So I don't think that this is properly in order unless you have some sort of even oral confirmation from this individual that they've resigned. I mean, I'll point council to the section of the portion of the committee policy dealing with the ERC.
I can make this easy. We can table it to the next meeting.
Well, I've already ruled it out of order, so it's simply not before council. It's section 2 right here. There shall be an ERC which shall consist of C, one non-council member of the unity. So unless you have some sort of confirmation that they've resigned, then Saeed is still a member of the committee.
He was elected in May, so his term ended in September.
Section 4 says that members of the committee shall not be subject to automatic recall in September.
All right, then we'll table.
It's not tabled. It's not before council.
I'll bring it up again later.
What you should do, Caitlin, is you should keep trying to contact Saeed. I know it's difficult, and I understand the position you're in is difficult.
It wasn't out of like not wanting Saeed involved on the committee. It was a non-councilor student wanted to get involved in the committee. There was a position available. Yes.
Rams.
It's a simple matter of attendance. If a committee member is unable to meet their commitments, then you as the chair can
I
make
can
that
bring it
work.
up next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the ERC wouldn't have met since the time that you've tried to contact. Yeah, exactly. That's the way that we have to go through this, I think. So I mean, it sucks because we have an individual here who is expecting to get involved, but it doesn't foreclose that individual in the future from still getting involved. So I don't want to discourage anyone with what just happened, but.
Point of information. Is this there's another clause I think below that says this is an open committee. So how does that conflict with?
Yeah, that's also something.
I don't know if it says that.
Doesn't it say?
No. No, I don't think it says that. Other committees are open in the sense that anyone can attend and contribute. But by the same token, there's nothing here that says that they can't attend.
In the
You know what I'm
past,
saying?
I'm pretty. If anyone can correct me, that more than just 3 people have been on the ERC in the past, definitely.
Taylor.
From my experience, which has been the last only 3 years, but the last 3 years it's been only 3 people.
Okay.
But I think open maybe means more people can get involved in the process, but ultimately the decisions and whatnot are made by the 3 committee members. But I think it would be fantastic if hundreds of students wanted to review our executive. That's what we need, really.
Point of information. If we approve committee policy in which an amendment I'm bringing forward is to have it say at least one of those members, and then we appoint after.
That's very possible.
It's on the agenda.
the consideration of the committee policy is before council this time. So we'll come to it in 9C or whatever it is.
But we could theoretically do that.
That's correct.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's move on. Did you want to scroll? Did you want to be able to scroll here? No? Okay. Let's do executive business. Start with Rams.
All right. Just want to start with the student retention workshops. Did people hear about these? They were poorly advertised, but these were pretty important because there were 4 consultations that were held to discuss the student retention strategy around what the university is planning. You know how the 25 priorities were presented to you at the last council meeting? So one of them had to do with deal with student retention. So they've already started working on it and hired this company called SEM Workshops to do the consultations. So essentially what's happening now is that they're meeting with faculty, staff, students, and they wanted to have like focus group style sessions. So I think an email was sent to council, but again, we found out like 3-4 days before, and an email was sent to council immediately after. So the meetings, I only attended one of the consultations, which was fairly well attended. About 9 people were there. I know Danny went to more than I did, a couple. And they were pretty general, pretty high level. Just wanted to give people an idea of what was talked about. So we had basically a conversation about very general highball questions like, do you value your experience at Dalhousie? Is Dalhousie meeting your expectations? In fact, Taylor Quinn was there as well. So Taylor, if you want to pipe in at any point and expand on your experience on that committee, let me know. What they're going to do with this, I don't know. I asked the question, what will you do with this feedback? They said that it's basically at the discretion of the provost's office, meaning they may publish this, as like an annotated summary of information. But let's see, I got to ask the provost that question. And this will be used in the strategy they're developing for November. So around end of November, which is in a couple of weeks, they'll probably be unveiling some sort of, master strategy for student retention, which is, rather quick to me. But again, I don't know if students will be allowed to give any feedback on this or not. So I'm trying to get as much information as I can, as it's been pretty hushed up. Yeah. Danny, do you want to add anything about how you felt?
Yeah, I know as far as like the student one was concerned, it was quite rushed. Did folks get the letter from council? I think on the day that I found out, I had Andrew circulate an invitation to council, so I'm just wondering if folks did receive that.
We had the same thing with the international students. We received the invitation the day of the consultation.
Yeah.
And they asked us to present, like, to come up to rally and 10 to 12 students. I couldn't present anybody.
This is for Dalhousie?
Yeah, the SM Works thing. Like, I received the invitation the same day the consultation. Like, I received it at 12. The consultation was at 4:30.
So okay, I'll do my job in relaying these concerns to the provost and let you know what kind of response I get, because it's been inadequate. I think they might have felt that way as well.
Yeah, we've already spoken to a few folks about this as an executive, just with our concerns. I think originally they wanted a certain amount of people at these groups, and they did receive this. I know, Kenzie, you were there. I don't know if you want to speak to it at all, but you found out the day of as well, correct? The session that you went to last week.
Oh yeah, I found out like a day before.
Yeah, so it wasn't the best plan as far as getting students out, which was my biggest concern, especially because being in one of the sessions in the morning regarding orientation, it seemed it would have been much more valuable to have more students in attendance. Me being the only one was inadequate in my mind. So we'll definitely do our best to relay this information to the folks involved in that. So I guess it's the current AVP and provost as well. So
I don't. Oh, sorry.
Just to follow up to what Rams was saying around like what will happen to these consultations. I think like the student retention strategy that's coming out of the university in terms of like on a province level, like there's tons of everyone's talking about this. So I think like the student union really needs to like force themselves into like the actual leadership of this process and not just because like the session we went to, Rams, like it was well attended, like there's 9 or 10 people there, but like it still was not representative of students, broadly speaking. And so I think like the student union, you guys we should all like really insert ourselves into this process and really get on Carolyn Waters' case about making sure that students have a say in dictating what works with student retention and what doesn't. If that seems to make sense. But so anyways, yeah. So anyways, you can recommend RAMs or any of the execs that we can get involved in this process as it goes towards the end of November. I think would be greatly beneficial.
So I know less about this than I do about the learning management system review, which is getting more publicity. So I need to do my I'm going to start asking tough questions and basically see are there other components to this? Is the story over? Is there surveys going out? Is there more consultations? All kinds of questions. So I'll have more at the next council. Oh yes, my report. Basically, there's also the RFP process closed on October 31st. So we have I think 4 proposals that have been submitted. These will be sent to BOPS for discussion next Thursday and to council for decision at the next council meeting. Policy review, BOPS approved elections policy and removed the nomination process for the VPFO, so you'll see that in the changes. BOPS do not have time to consider the other policies. Part-time student Dalplex fee, found out that part-time students actually pay a higher fee at the Dalplex than faculty and staff. So I just thought it was a bit problematic. So hopefully I'm expecting an answer from the university about that in the next couple of weeks. But to me, it seems like a union issue. So, but still, that's what they can do. Investments committee, there was a very lively session last night. I think Rebecca, we can probably talk about it, the board caucus report. But yes, Dallas Dal gave a very, very good presentation. Yeah, hats off to those folks. So. Student experience committee update, we also discussed that at the board update. Executive project commissioner, the applications postings are closing this Friday. I've had 2 applications, so that people know. Policy and research coordinator hiring, we're hoping to have a person selected by next week. So we'll announce it at the next council. General meeting, divestment was discussed, and I'm focusing a lot of energy into that. So our edits to our investment policy statements have been made by Devas Dell, and those are currently with our investments manager. So those will also be reviewed by BOPS before coming to council. Start Renos, a lot has happened on this. We're not doing too well financially. Taylor, you were there at the meeting Monday morning where the university introduced some last-minute fees on us. So we're currently over budget with the project. So we're trying to basically ensure that we're still in a healthy financial situation. So I'll have more updates in the next couple of weeks, but I'm not going to sign any contracts with them until we get more clarity on what's expected of us, I guess, financially. Society Hub space allocation, still ongoing. I'm trying to find Little in office. Food services, the VPFO and general manager reviewing the food service transition timeline. LMS review, still ongoing. Again, if you want to sign up for one of these, send that person an email. Doug Rogers, who was here last time, or send me an email. I can hook you up with this. Women's only swim at the Dalplex is going well. There's a way to. I asked the question around private time for trans students as well. So that's again something that I'll need direction from Dal out on, but the university is open to it. And essentially, it's all about the blinds. So there'll be probably like an inauguration party that we want to hold or something where students come and decorate the blinds and stuff, and those will be a permanent fixture in the Dalplex. Union divestment. Well, BOPS could not review the changes suggested to investments policy, so those changes will be at council for the next council meeting.
Are there any questions for Rams? Hannah? Oh, yeah, Hannah.
I'm just wondering, so we're planning on voting on the divestment at next meeting. I was wondering when we can expect to see those changes.
I could send them now, but the BOPS hasn't approved them, so I don't know if. And also, there's no. I was hoping to send attached documentation around the financial implications because I would assume council would want to know that. So and BOPS certainly needs that information. So I was gonna, as soon as I get that, I was gonna send it off at the next council.
I was just wondering, when you mentioned Della, were you talking about potentially like a opportunity to have like the queer and trans like swim as well? So that's like in the works and stuff.
Well,
Della is planning an event like that. Again, it's contingent on the installation of the blinds, which I understand you guys are trying to find money for in the budget or something.
Yes. So we're yes.
So like as soon as it's there, we're gonna book it. As soon as we know that we can do it after that.
So that's for January. we don't have much money to contribute to this. The blinds cost about $5,000, so we'll do what we can. And yeah, exactly. So we'll see if the university can help us a lot, majority-wise.
There's a question about the blinds. Like, is there a reason you need to spend $5,000 and not just like put up like fabric?
It's the installation costs as well, the facilities management charges.
Like, okay,
Oh,
one
sorry.
question. The Dolplex has blinds already on like poles.
We need to order them.
We can't use the ones the Dolplex already have.
They won't be permanent, right? So they want something installed so it can go up and down based on, I guess, you know. So I mean, if you're suggesting a shorter temporary measure, then perhaps we can chat, and because I didn't know those blinds, they have temporary ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, especially if it's gonna be like every week or every month, then like, I don't know that we need to invest this much money. Blinds. Anyway.
Can you clarify what the blinds are?
Okay. Oh yes. So when
I just got that explained to me too.
So when a person walks into the Delplex, they walk past the Del card swipey thingy, and then the turnstiles, and then right in front is like a giant window that oversees the pool.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem if people are trying to have a private session.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the blinds covered that. Okay.
Oh,
sorry, and the blinds are also for the cardio room, because if you've ever been in the cardio room, you get a full frontal view of everything happening downstairs.
Coach's offices.
It's a nice window.
I had Taylor first.
You mentioned in your report that you'd maybe think about putting the proposals for the space in the basement on the website. Is that actually gonna? I would highly like that to happen if that can happen, so students have some sort of at least knowledge of the different options for that space. But where can that happen?
100%. I'll put them up. Absolutely. Actually, I don't have them. They're with the general manager, so I'll get them off. Quick.
Roughly when?
Tomorrow.
John? You had your hand? No? Jamal? You had your hand? Jamal?
What's the update for section campus food options?
I have a meeting with the person next week. So Heather Sutherland, and I'll also inform her about the debit machine. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, this is just like quick info. If people want a general idea of the Divest DAL Investment Committee happenings, you can find it on their website. If you want it before they get, if you want to share information.
Yeah, this is something that council should probably be aware of. The Budget Advisory Committee, the body of, it's not a board of governors, it's an administration committee, but as the body that like examines DEL's finances and balances the budget every year, there's supposed to be 2 students that sit on it in consultation with the DSU. And Rams and I found out that, because I sat on it last year and I asked if I could be on it again, and I was told that 2 students were already appointed. So the administration board has gone around the students and appointed 2 people that they're choosing, and they're supposed to go through the student union. So given the gravity of this committee, that's kind of a big deal. So send her an angry email, please.
Yes. I didn't follow all that. Sorry. Someone was appointed. What committee was that you?
Budget Advisory Committee.
Budget Advisory Committee. And 2 students were appointed that not through the DSU.
There's supposed to be 2 students appointed in consultation with the DSU, and they just picked 2 students.
Jasmine?
With regards to the blinds for the pool, I know that you're saying that it's a budgetary issue for them, but are we able to put it to our other societies to do fundraising for it? I know Safer would be all over that.
Oh yeah.
Is that a thing that can be done?
So I wouldn't be too worried about the funding, because I think what the attitude right now is that we can contribute what we can contribute, and they'll cover the rest.
Okay.
So so they're going to ask the swimming society, and I think so. The swimming society and the Muslim Students Association were the ones who are pushing this forward.
Okay.
They'll probably ask them for some, for some supporting as well, and to see if these societies can even offer anything. Most likely, can't imagine anything significant. So it's yeah. I mean, if you want to help out, for sure. But don't feel any pressure or obligation to do so at this point.
I feel like Safer can do something.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, we spend a lot of time at Delplex.
Okay. Well, thanks for offering, actually. So in case we hit a bind, I'll definitely be in touch with you.
Okay, definitely.
Caleb?
Just really quickly to follow up to JD's point. So JD, is anything like, are those is there gonna be new students on that, the budget advisory committee, or like, Rams, are you sending an angry email, or?
Yeah.
What's happening with that?
So first, we didn't know this committee was meeting. B, we didn't know there were students on this committee. So like it's from the conversations I've been hearing at the operations committee, it's high time we set up and took control.
Rebecca.
I just recommend, can you email Paula Simon as well, like the chair of the student experience board committee too? If she would probably would go with that.
It's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Can I just confirm what you're doing to follow up on that? You're gonna send an email to
Carolyn Waters and CC Paula Simon on that. Maybe in the form.
I wonder if Flora's on too.
100%.
So
Oh no, yes.
Any more questions for Rams? Okay, thank you, Rams. Jennifer.
Yeah, so I'll just highlight a few things out of my report. I'll highlight a couple things that have come up since I wrote this report, actually. I mentioned that we did Trick or Eat on Halloween, so in collaboration with Feed Nova Scotia, we organized Trick or Eat with a few societies on campus and with Dow. And we got the numbers back. There were a lot of people involved, and we organized the equivalent of 7,900 meals through food donations and monetary donations on Halloween. So that's really exciting. Also, we have picked the date for our next town hall, which is going to be November 24th at 6:30 p.m. This information will be coming out to everyone really soon, but I thought I'd give you a heads up since we figured that out after I wrote my report. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, please.
Yeah, just a comment. I really like what the E&A office is doing around the Halloween costumes. Because if anyone's reading CBC in the last couple of days, over at Brock University, they had a costume contest in their student bar, and 4 white students that wore blackface and dressed up as a Jamaican bobsled team actually won the costume contest. So when it's clear that things like don't wear blatantly racist costumes is not obvious to some students, doing this kind of work is really important. Thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on that because I brought to the attention of the DSU the day before Halloween that out here in front of the sub, we had one of the committees or social committees or whatever dressed as a sumo warrior and a white guy with a Rasta hat with the braids and everything. So I thought that did a very big disservice to our community as a student body after doing all that. This is not my culture. This is my culture. This is not me. Campaign last year, then have that, and that's why we eventually need a policy in place, because the end result of that was there was nothing. What do we bring forward to do this, to correct this?
Were there any other aspects of your report that you wanted to highlight, Jennifer?
No, I'll keep it short. I think it's available for everyone. Feel free to email me if you scan it and have any other questions.
Are there any other questions for Jennifer? Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Next is Mabu. Oh, sorry, Janelle. Sorry.
Do we have any new societies ratified this year?
Do we have any new societies ratified? Yeah, like, I don't know, like 300 or so. There's.
No, I mean any new societies that are formed.
Yeah. Like a lot. But sorry, I'm not being cheeky right now. There really are a lot. What I can do is actually come up with a list of all of the societies that have been ratified this year, if that's helpful, and send it out. Around 258. Okay. Just under 300. But yeah, I'll happily send that out.
I think all counselors would be interested in that. So.
Yeah, so should I forward it to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can send it on. Any more questions for Jennifer? Yes, sir?
Actually, I'm from Kings, and it's not something neat to notice at the E&A office at the cabling committee. Is that standard practice? I thought that the E&A office was through the DS.
Yeah.
Cool.
They do that.
Sorry, Michael?
Asking with the NA. So where are they? I think I brought a question at in our general meeting about where are they in policy or that are they worked on? Are they working on anything concrete right now?
Yeah. So the areas that we're focusing on most right now are policy around grievances. So how to organize grievances, which will lead into advocating for an ombudsperson through the university. That's like one piece. Another piece has to do with the accessibility fund and our accessibility bursary, and so how to work with that. And there was a third one that's just not coming to my mind right now.
So they're not working on any policies around race or sexual orientation or anything like that?
Like policy recommendations, but they can't actually, or maybe they could. Yeah. Do you want to chat about that later?
Are there any more questions for Jennifer? Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Now we'll hand it off to Michael.
Yes, it's a busy time of the year, and we had got the report of our health plan provider. They had a presentation in last week's BOPS meeting, and BOPS is working on it, but you get some idea of that in the audited statements. And if you have some concern or suggestion or want to know some information how the health fund working, maybe we can provide more information to the council if needed. But Bob's in looking into it, and the audited statement will be helpful to get an idea of where we are regarding to the health plan. And then the audited financial statements, yes, Bob looked into it, and today it's I think every councillor got the statement. It will be an item in today's meeting. I'll go through them and to give you an idea where we are regarding last year's financial statements. So budget revision, one of the important thing, the half-yearly budget revision we are working on at, and the next council meeting, it will be a discussion item, and we hope to approve this budget revision on December 3rd. And then for the future budget preparing process, according to Bob's suggestions, I'm trying to collect information from other students' unions, their budget and their audited statements to kind of prepare some basic documents or prepare some research on it, how other students are working and where we are. That will help us to judge financially the financial health of DSU compared to other student union. So the supplement of finance is one of the hot topic of this time. We're meeting with different banks, like different banks we're meeting with, and they will come up with some proposal of their financial model, and we'll look into it during next few weeks. And the fall society audits, actually we're end of the audit, and I'm very happy that this year it went to a different model and societies are happy with it. Of the 40 society, 33 submitted their books and already 24 is passed. Actually, what I'm doing this year, I'm just not telling the society that you have failed. Those society have problem with their books. I'm working with them and they're improving. And the left over, they will be passed within few days. But there are a few societies that didn't submit their book in this fall. So I'll try to contact them and try to know what's the reason behind that. There is 7 society didn't submit their book yet. And the health plan after students are still who missed the deadline applying for appeal. Till date, we have 51 applications for opt-out. So we approved 13 of them. The reason was good enough to make them opt-out. And there was some conversation about the opt-out process or their deadline. Maybe in future we need to discuss in the BOPs whether it will be more useful for students to extend the deadline or making some other changes that's useful for students, helpful to opt out and making other decisions. I think these are the main things, but I'm also attending the grants committee, society review committees, external meeting, and few other university committee meetings as well. So it's a busy time of the year, but exciting. I think I'm fine and open to your questions now and during my audit presentation as well.
Any questions for Abu? Right.
I just had a question. I didn't see it in the audit statement, but what company or what firm audited our? Was that like an audit done internally or externally?
No, we have external audit company, but I think last year we changed the company. So this is the draft we send out to the members, so it doesn't include the name, but when we publish the main document, there will be name provided as well. So the name is not in top of my head, but we changed the audit company last year.
Yeah.
I can answer part of that. It was Grant Thornton that was doing it last year, but they changed it. I think this year it was KPMG, but I'm not quite sure, but I think it is.
Any more questions for Mabu? Okay, thank you, Mabu. We'll come back to you later with the financial statements. We didn't receive a report from VP External and Academic, Jacqueline, and so we'll go to Denny.
Cool. Sorry, folks, my report went out late. I do sincerely apologize for that. I was just trying to get as much information as I could all at once. One of the things I wanted to finalize was the event calendar for the Greywood. One of the things I want to start doing is compiling all that information in this type of calendar. I don't know if you're seeing my report, but there it is. Cool. I want to compile events like that for the Greywood and the Tea Room. Maybe make it a bit more pretty and more legible, but that's it for now. If you have any questions about that kind of stuff, I can let you know, or how you can get involved in some of these events. One of the things I do want to mention that's not listed here is this Friday in the Greywood, there is a World Music Dance Party hosted by a number of societies, including Engineers Without Borders, Spanish Society, Ideas, Dalhousie, and more. Tons of music from around the world, so I just wanted to let you know it's going to be a sweet event, but it's not on the calendar, so I apologize if it's not on the calendar if you're involved in those groups. Can't speak to why it's not, but yeah. So another thing I want to talk about is this week we just launched in partnership with the Student Health Promotion Office here at Dal a Student Wellness Month. So the campaign is going to be focusing on a lot of things, so all to do with student wellness. Everything from recreation to nutrition to sleep hygiene, etc. So all in bettering folks' health leading up to exams. So that's our focus. Today, I think on Monday we were doing make your own granola in the Killam. Today there was a bike blender, so you could power a blender with a bicycle, and we were making smoothies downstairs in the lobby. Starting tomorrow, Breathing Space Yoga, which is a yoga studio down on Coburg and Oxford, will be doing free yoga for every Thursday night at 7:30. So it's their beginner yoga class. You can go there and just show your DAL card. There'll be coupons and stuff like that as well. It's free for any DAL student. As well, starting on Wednesday at Sexton campus, we're going to be doing free yoga in the gym. So every Wednesday during November will be free yoga at Sexton campus, and then on Mondays it'll be on Studley campus at 6 p.m. in the McGinnis room. So a calendar will be going out, an official calendar that I'll have circulated.
Yeah, where was that place that you talked about? That was doing free?
Oh, Breathing Space Yoga. It's
so
down.
that's one on Coburg?
Yeah, Coburg and Oxford. Yeah, yeah, it's a cool yoga studio, and they're doing free yoga there. So if you're interested in yoga and want to do it for free, this is the month to do it. And furthermore, there's going to be a lot of other workshops happening throughout the month. Information being presented by the Student Union and Student Health Promotion and other folks as well. During our recreation week, we're launching a day-long hockey tournament with in partnership with Dalhousie Tigers. It's going to be a lot of fun as well. It says hopefully there because it wasn't totally in stone when I wrote this report, but it is in stone as of today, so be good to go. So if you're interested in that, you can find out some more information. You can just contact me and register or whatever. So yeah, so that's something we're really, really excited about. We're going to be working hard on that. This month I'm also doing a lot of work actually in planning for January, which is strange to be planning so far ahead, but it's kind of what it takes to get some stuff happening. So upcoming events you can see in the calendar. Puppy Room is happening December 1st to 3rd. I included the events committee update again because I just wanted to update folks on some of the things that have actually come from this, and a lot of those have been some recreation events. We've held 2 day-long sports, or 1 day-long sports tournament, another one coming up next week, the hockey tournament, some other things happening as well around there. I got a bigger show happening in the Greywood on the 21st with Paper Lions, band from PEI, and Coyote, another band from PEI. It's gonna be super fun as well. Tickets are on sale now at the sub info desk. Last Class Bash, as usual, will be happening, and I included a small varsity update as well. A lot of that information came from the Roar, I think it's just called the Roar, which is the varsity newsletter that comes out weekly. The links you can click on and read the full updates there. Hoping to include some more updates on varsity athletics and athletics in general in future reports as well. So at this point, I would love to field any questions that folks might have. Some other things that came up, I know Ron talked about those student sessions, and we'll be speaking with university administration about those coming up and other things as well. But if anyone would like to ask me questions, I would love to provide some answers. Hello.
Not really like question, but I know you're looking at the Learn to Skate with Dow hockey team. There's also a Dow figure skating society, so they could probably help with that
Oh,
too.
sweet.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Oh, I'd love to help with them too. Learn to skate with everybody. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Yeah, that was just one of the options. I have a little thing. You let us know what you want to learn. So if you want to learn something, figure skating, Christine, obviously. So yeah, we'll do that. Anything else, folks? Yes.
Is there any like varsity DSU kind of events happening? You're like promoting actually like varsity games rather than other stuff?
Yeah, well, we don't have anything specifically. I do have a list of a number of events that are coming up. But I'm not going to speak to it right now. I actually can't speak to it right now. But right now we're just working on working with varsity athletics on promoting other events, just for all students and getting the athletes involved in those types of events.
Something that was mentioned at the events committee thing was there's a thing for societies, like name your game.
Yeah, you can speak to it.
Okay, well, I don't know like a whole lot about it, but it's like societies can ask, I don't know who it is on the varsity council or whatever it is, but like you can ask when there's a varsity game to have it like named after your society, and then do a little thing at like halftime or something like that to promote your society. So if you have a society that's interested in that, it's a good way to get your
it's a nice little social activity. I think for your society, I think it comes with pizza, and I think it's registered through the marketing department at athletics. That's Angela Cabera-Jewers. Am I correct? Yeah, Angela Cabera-Jewers. So if you'd like to know some more information about that, you can just shoot me a message, and I can send you all the information you need, the application form and stuff like that. Super cool initiative there. Yes, Rob.
Do you want to talk about the student lounge or no?
Sure. Yeah. Actually, that's a really good idea. So I don't know if folks are aware of it, but in the next couple of weeks, we'll be doing more of a push for this specific initiative. But on the fourth floor of the sub, in what was the I guess the Career and Leadership Center, now that's moved to the other side of the sub. I guess it's more over this way on the fourth floor. They've turned that whole area into a student lounge. So there's company couches and desks and things like that up there. There's a big TV you can do some work on, or just watch TV on. There's a microwave. There's things to do up there, board games and such. A lot of programming that's happening out of there through Dow Student Life Initiative. So that was created actually through partnership with the Student Union and the Dow Student Life folks, and Student Services, I should say, in just creating more student space on campus. So now that they're waiting for some administrative offices to vacate that space before they start a big push to get that space used more. So now that has happened, we'll be doing a more focused campaign on educating students about that space, and hopefully doing some more programming out of that area. So do you have any more questions about that?
You can also jam there and play instruments at night, by the way. Ukulele and stuff like that. You can get it from the front desk.
Are you saying that you sit on the front desk with a ukulele? that what you're saying?
No. You can grab you can grab an instrument from the front desk, take it up to the 4th floor, and just shred like on the ukulele. Is that what you do?
That's where Rom's plays
Are they
guitar.
tuned?
Well, that's
What was that, Danny?
Rom's plays guitar now. He's learning, and he'll play up there.
We can also do that every Monday in the sub on the 3rd floor.
Oh.
At where my society meets. Yeah. So if you ever want to do that.
Any more questions for Danny? Okay. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Board caucus report.
Yes. So there was a student experience committee meeting, and there was an investments committee meeting. So I've been speaking a lot. I don't know, Rebecca or John, like, do you want to take lead on one of these things? Or?
I guess I was under the impression, like, Susan told me that these meetings are in camera, so.
Yeah. So I think that, and it's kind of difficult.
Update you on.
Yeah. We can discuss some of the items that were on the agenda, for instance. I think that's fair. I think like this discussing. So right now, for example, on the SEC's plate, we'll be giving a presentation on. And again, this is something that I have to plan with my fellow board caucus members. But a presentation on the impacts of the provincial cuts on the student experience. So basically, the implications on tuition, and how student debt can really may provide negative impact on student experience. So we need to do a lot of research for that presentation on December 4th. And there's another presentation I want to do on the ombudsperson, right around that question: is there a need for an ombudsperson? Obviously, so that's also student experience. What else can we disclose? Well,
some of the items on the student experience committee agenda have been made public in some way. So one of those examples, like the student retention initiatives, they're hired SEMworks Consulting to help them work on this, right? So right now they're in the stage of data collection, which is part of what those consultations were. Do they do a better job? But they're doing it. They're doing something. Once they're done the data collection phase, they'll move on to next steps of that process. Should be mostly like reporting to the administration and moving forward through there. Bit of discussion around the provost model and how it affects the student experience side of things. So a lot of this was actually covered in Carolyn's presentation last council meeting. So it wasn't a lot of new information, but sort of repeated and focused in on that angle of things. And of course, there was the investment committee meeting, which was unique because students aren't normally allowed in that committee, and it's 3 board members. This one was open to any board member that wanted to come, so we went to that, all 3 of us. And there's a really interesting presentation from Divestel on Hudson Space to talk about divestment without Divestel members present. Really, really interesting discussion.
And so basically the vote is November 25th, and we encourage everyone to attend and show support.
Any questions surrounding that? Okay, thank you. All right. Old business. I believe it was Caitlin who we're going to talk about this amendment to council policy. So if we all turn our minds back a month ago, which seems like a while ago, there was this discussion around around what type of report councillors should submit to the chair during every meeting. So Nazneen moved a sub-amendment. We were talking about when more than one individual represents a certain society, whether or not that society should submit one report collaboratively as opposed to having each of the DSU representatives, for instance, submit a report each. I understand it's a bit awkward to think about this turning our minds back, but that's what's before council at this time. I don't know if you wanted to share your thoughts around this or...
No, I personally am in full support of council reports. I was one of the only people that actually did council reports last year. I think it's really important, especially because it has a level of accountability to us as councillors to actually report back to our societies and then have that information available for other councillors to see, or just really anyone who wants to look it up on the website. The motion as, I guess it's on the floor, so never mind. But essentially, I think having the one report per society or faculty is great. considering the fact that some of us receive honorariums for sitting in these positions, I think a report isn't too much to ask.
So I guess we all understand what's before council now. Yeah, this is basically discussion time. Yes, Hina.
More of a question. But is this like, in my term as a councillor, I should submit one report? Or is this like every council meeting?
Every council meeting.
Just because it's not clear what. Because it almost seems like.
If I pull up the council policy, council policy. It's every member of council shall report to council on matters relating to his or her constituents. Yeah. So yes, Gil.
If we could make an amendment to make that more clear, to be submitted to the chair 48 hours before each council meeting.
Did you want to speak to that, Henry, or did you have a point of order? Because before I recognize the amendment, there is another amendment before the floor. So I don't want to shut that conversation down, but I want to deal with what Nazneen had moved beforehand, what's in red, right? This is the issue as to whether or not a society that is represented by more than one individual should report twice or once or what have you. And in the case of senators, it would also apply as well. So is there any discussion around that? I know Nazneen had said, I know Nazneen was the one that moved it, and she represents DAGs. So I think that's where that was coming from. So is there any further discussion around that? The text that's underlined and in red? You have a confused look on your face, Hannah?
Yeah, I guess so, like last time we discussed this, there was a lot of discussion around like how long or how often that we would have to do this report by. And I thought that we had voted that we thought every council meeting was too much. Am I remembering this correctly? And that we said maybe like there was other things suggested, but we didn't vote on them as of amendments, capacity issues.
Sorry, what was that? What was that? I couldn't hear you.
So when we talked about this last time, I thought we had voted against doing it every council meeting, and that other alternatives were suggested, but we couldn't amend our amendment to our amendment or something of that nature.
I think there was discussion around that, but I don't know if that was the nature of the amendment that I moved out of order. I moved out of order something that John had moved, okay? And then, but council resurrected it because they found that it wasn't substantially similar. So, but we did have a discussion about what we were talking about, but I don't think it was what I ruled out of order. So there was no formal amendment, like concerning the frequency of the council reports, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so this isn't suggesting it. Another thing about this amendment is we talked about like the substance of what the report should include, and there were suggestions about whether it should be like just an update about what your society's doing versus like my society voted on this and the results were this. And I'm not sure if this motion is supposed to resolve that, or if there is a feel from council what you want it to be.
Okay, so I guess we're straight into debate on the motion as a whole. So my attempts at confining the discussion just to what is in red is not really happening. That's fine. I mean, it's good that we're having discussion at all. But I just need to know what we're going to do with the red amendment, right? Rams.
I mean, I would suggest we pass the language as formulated because it's vague enough that that it allows for sorry, there's a fly in the room. It allows for the ERC or council to basically decide the format of the reports that may be given in a particular year. So for this year, we might try a format where we don't, have to report on every detail, every motion, something a bit, high level. But in other years, they may want the granularity. They may want all the conversation and everything. So I think one of the tasks that I was hoping to work with Caitlin on is creating like a template for counselors just to download off online, super quick, just some quick, brief details. And that would be the format we'll be presenting in January. And if that's a hit, then it'll be like a process thing that we do every year. But again, this won't be violating policy. there's no need to change that.
The floor is open.
Yeah, I'd just like to second that idea. Like if we can pass this change, then we can discuss more detail later. This is just this one particular.
So if there's no further debate on this sub-amendment in red that has been moved, then I think we'll move to a vote on that. Is there any further discussion on that? In other words, the vote will be, if we have reports, if counselors have to send reports, then each faculty will only submit one report, irrespective of how many counselors they have. So that's essentially what this amendment is talking about. So if, barring any further discussion on that, we'll move to a vote whether or not to adopt that sub-amendment. So all those in favor of, so if you vote in favor, it means that each society's report is collapsed into one, and individual counselors don't have to submit one each. If you vote no, then you would say that each counselor has to submit a report, no matter if they represent the same society. Like, does anyone not understand what we're voting on? And I should check if we have quorum before we can vote. Yeah. Quorum's 20, but we have more than 20. Okay, so if everyone's satisfied that they know what this sub-amendment is about, we'll move to a vote whether or not to adopt the sub-amendment. What's underlined is in red. Are you preventing yourself from saying something, Caitlin, or?
No, I just got my wisdom teeth out.
Oh.
And I did take my pain meds like hours ago.
You have my sympathies. That's okay. So we'll move to a vote on the sub-amendment then, which is underlined in red. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. So is there any discussion, any further discussion on this report as a whole? Are you? No? Okay, Michael?
I think basically to echo, because we did discuss last time, I think we discussed other things other than what was actually being brought up in red. And one of the discussions that we did have was about the frequency of the reports, because one of the things that came forward was that some of the groups represent, or some of the counselors represent more than a small society. They represent almost the faculty as a whole, like either like the women's community or black community or something like that. So there was concern about having a concrete report for every meeting. So I know that we did talk about the times and that, how many of those we would say.
So are you comfortable with this language, or would you prefer that some temporal restrictions be placed on it, or are you satisfied?
I just want to know if we're going to open it up into what you cut off so that we could do the vote on whether or not there is going to be an implement of when, of how many or when, or are you going to bring it back to us later? I just want to know some clarification on what's going to happen there.
I mean, the way I read that, it is vague of when the reports are required to be sent in. I would read that as at least once. You know, I don't think it says that it has to be at every meeting. That's how I would read it now. Okay. Caitlin?
Do we want to decide on a time right now, or do we want to come back to it?
Rams?
I think we should leave it to the year. Like, you know, this year we might decide monthly. Next year they might decide bi-monthly. Like, I think we should leave that kind of vagueness.
Why don't you just add a clause saying at least X amount, so that way it still leaves that flexibility to determine once a month or once a week or whatever they want.
So, report to council via written summary to be submitted to the chair. Yeah.
I would put it the same frequency as council meetings as per our constitution. Council meetings are supposed to be once every 3 weeks, so I would motion to have like an amendment made to say once every 3 weeks.
Once every 3 weeks. I mean,
well, it's like essentially once a month. Like, that's what I'm.
Well, the only problem I have is, like, I mean, council's every 2 weeks, so how would that work? Some meetings you wouldn't have any reports, some you would.
No, at least.
At least once every 3 weeks. Okay, does that motion have a seconder? I don't see that it does.
Okay.
Taylor.
I would
motion to say at least once every month, and then maybe for this year, my suggestion would be that we do it every other meeting. And Andrew will let us all know, give us a heads up. Okay, guys, the next meeting is a report meeting.
So once a month or every other meeting?
Once a month for the purposes of the.
Okay, so does that motion have a seconder? Caitlin? At least once a month. Any further discussion on that? Andrew?
Just want to say my intention was to just, because even that, it doesn't leave much flexibility if they want to do more. I was thinking more like once per semester, and in that way, it allows them to decide if they want once per month, once bi-weekly, or what have you. Whereas right now, it's grounded. You realistically do any, is there any flexibility there? Just a comment, I'm not.
Yeah.
I think at least once per month keeps it that the counselor, if they want to do more than one a month, they have the ability to. Like, if a lot is happening in the Faculty of Arts, I'm going to obviously send more than one report to update on the situation. But I think having like at least having a report for each faculty society or other type ones definitely is not too much to ask. There's a lot that happens in a month. We're very busy people. I'm sure people can put together a report.
I just want to say the way I would read that is, I guess at the end of the month, I would send a reminder maybe, a few days before the end of the month to send your reports in, and then people would have an opportunity to speak to them at the subsequent meeting. So for instance, I mean, the first meeting in December is the 3rd, so that's when the first reports would be spoken to. Is there any further discussion on that? Andrew?
Just a question. Does this have any implications for how those reports are to be used, in the sense that are we expected to basically speak to that report at the meeting, or is it just for reference materials to be circulated to council? Is it basically what I'm asking is everyone going to have to go around the table and speak to their report, thus delaying our meetings probably longer, or is it just people can read the reports as they will?
Caitlin?
Something is going on that someone wants to bring direct attention to. They could email the chair 72 hours before the meeting and make it an agenda item if they feel that council needs to be aware of it or wants to have a discussion. But other than that, I think just having it for reference serves the purpose.
Yeah. The only thing that this motion says is posted on the DSU website. There's nothing other requirement.
I think the way that it would work is that, like, if I receive reports at the end of the month, then they would go. They would fall under the report section. Why don't I just do it with the PDF? They would fall under the report section in the, it's right after exec business. So that's when it would come up in the agenda, after exec business.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the problems with this is the vague and what we expected. And I think putting it in the council package each week is pretty overwhelming. I also think even now our executive doesn't consistently write reports, so I think it kind of puts the union at a hassle when trying to track down counselors and force them to write these reports.
Reps.
That's all right.
But being elected into these positions and accepting a nomination, these positions in the policy, it says that counselors are to submit reports. We've automatically accepted that responsibility. It just hasn't been enforced.
Reps.
So again, sorry, I just don't agree with the logic. If one person is one group is committing, an error, then we should also be exempt from committing that error. I mean, I don't agree with that logic. So I'll just say that, sure. I think by counselors actually doing it puts the higher standard of the executive as well. So.
Caitlin?
I think it sets an example that we want to be as transparent a body as possible and share as much information as possible. This is an easy way to do it.
I don't want to spend too much more time on this. We've had about 20 minutes for this so far. Has anyone who hasn't spoken, do they wish to speak on this? first vote will be on the temporal limit, at least once per month. And then after that, we'll vote on the amendment as a whole. So if there's no other discussion on the temporal limit of once a month, we'll move to a vote whether or not to adopt what's underlined and in red here. If I can use PDF properly, at least once per month. So seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote whether to amend section 2D in this fashion to provide that the reports are going to be at least once per month. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. Keep them. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Okay. Any further discussion on this amendment as a whole? So the way I read it, I would essentially be reminding councillors at the end of each month. I'll send an email a couple of days before the last day of the month, reminding councillors to send me the reports, and they would be added to the agenda of the subsequent council meetings. So the first one would be December 3rd. And then any councillors who are present would have the opportunity to present that report or not, and I guess they would have to field some questions. And those reports would be posted on the website, on the DSU website. So is there any further discussion around this? Is anyone who hasn't spoken on this, would they wish to speak at all? Okay, so seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote whether to adopt the amendment as a whole. All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Does anyone want their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? All right. So the first report of that nature, I'll remind councillors of near the end of the month. Okay. And now, Jamel, we can talk about the amendments to the subcommittee, because we moved your motion up, and I'm just going to remember where it's located. I guess it's here. Yeah, so maybe I'll ask you to run us through the changes that you've made to the subcommittee.
You want to zoom in for sure. So the SAC committee is the section advisory committee. We have 14 members that's on this committee, and we just have few amendments. The C item is the vice president of finance and operations was already there. It's just the order has just been changed because at the end we just got on top. Then the H item, H and I item is also the order has just changed. There's no changes except for the J item. There wasn't a representative of the undergraduate planning. We just had a rep from the graduate planning, so it made more sense to have views from the undergraduate planners as well. And for that reason, we added the undergraduate planning society rep in the SAC committee. Then we have, if you see item P, one representative of the section publishing society, we just renamed it. It was named as one representative of one, like there would be a newspaper editor, so we just renamed it as representative of the section publishing society. So section publishing society has an editor, a treasurer, and there's one more position. So any one of those can the committee meetings. So it's not just restricting the editor, like we're not just limiting the position to an editor to come for meetings. And that's with the committee formation. With number 6 item, a recording secretary shall be appointed at the beginning of each meeting. So before we start off with the meeting, we'll have a recording secretary appointed. Number 8. The quorum at any meeting, this is something we changed. The quorum at any meeting of the committee shall be 50%. Before this, it was 3 members. And out of 14 members, just having 3 members was not really making sense, because the whole purpose of the committee was to discuss issues on section campus, and we actually needed reps from all societies to be present. So we made it 50% of the members of the committee. So that means it's technically 7 because we have 14 members on board. Provided, shall be the person of the members of the committee, provided that the chair or the deputy chair is present. For the summer semesters, residence council representatives will not count towards quorum for the reason we don't have council during summer terms for the residence council. That is Gerard Hall and O'Brien Hall. We do not have council in summer terms, so we decided that these two council reps will not be counted towards quorum. And for the spring and summer months, the committee shall have no less than 1 meeting. That is same as before. And number 9 is something new that we added. The committee members may proxy their vote to another member of the appropriate group or society if applicable via written notice to the chair a minimum of 24 hours in advance of the meeting. So any rep on the committee can give proxy their vote to someone else of the same society. And number 10, the last one is if a member of the committee misses 2 meetings, the society they represent shall be notified by the chair. Just a slight correction because before this it was if a member of the committee misses 2 meetings, his or her seat will be temporarily removed and the society they represent shall be notified by the chair. It wasn't making any sense removing the position because we wanted more people to attend society these meetings and give their views. It made sense to have just notifying the society that this person is not attending, so we got to look into it. These are the simple amendments, and if there are any questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks, Jamel. So this is the opportunity to offer any suggestions, ask questions. Rents?
What's 50% of the members? 6, 7?
7. We have 14 members on board as of now, so 50%. There is, yeah.
Sorry, you can finish.
Just one point. We strike. I think I didn't mention this in the committee formation. Andrew, if you can just scroll up. We striked off the section office manager position from the committee list for the reason there wasn't any section office manager for past 2 years, and I'm not sure why, but for that reason we removed section office manager from there. I think that's the only reason. So.
You had a question, Jim?
Yeah, just 2 quick things. Thanks for holding regular Sexton meetings. That's been really great. Has there been on average 7 voting members at each meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so there won't be a problem to keep meetings going. And maybe I've missed it, but is there a secretary appointed?
Yes. We have, no, like a recording secretary shall be appointed at the beginning of each meeting.
Oh, okay.
So there is no recording secretary who will be.
Okay, so it'll just change.
We will be appointing it at each meeting.
Great.
Any more questions or suggestions for Jamel? Or for this motion, I should say. So I think the way we'll vote on this is we'll just vote on the amendments as a whole. So seeing as there's no further discussion, we'll move to vote whether or not to adopt this motion as a whole. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Would anyone like their abstentions noted in the minutes? We have quorum, right? 6. Barely, okay. All right. So that's taken care of. And so Jacqueline's motion concerning the adoption of a policy concerning sexism and racism is automatically tabled to the next meeting. And so we come to item 9C. So I'm your hands raised as to what you want to do with this.
I mean, I would motion to table this. It's the same version of committee policy that was.
Okay, so does the motion, or which do you want to table? Just
C, D, and E.
The motion is to table C, D, and E. So does that motion have a second? Andrew. Now you can.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, this is the same version of the policy that was sent to you a couple of weeks ago, but Bob's took a look at some of them, and they did have this, edits to make, especially to facilities operations. Bob's didn't get a chance to look at committee yet, so I don't know. They're not ready to vote on tonight. That's all.
Jamal.
I just want to point out to the committee policy that nothing with respect to the tabling. If but if it's going to Bob's to be discussed, if you can also discuss the section entertainment committee as well, because it's striped off completely. Like it's like there is no entertainment committee as of now. There's just half portion. Like the committee formation is striped off except for what the committee shall do. So if that is something as well, if the Bob's can, unless you add it as a motion to amend it or something.
And you would want it back in there?
Yeah.
So that's a good question. Takes precedence here. So motion to table takes precedence over motion to amend. So unfortunately, that's out of order. Hannah?
So I know you told me it was out of order earlier, but there's no chance, since we did discuss these policies at last week's meeting, are we going to discuss these at all before? Because I think it'd be useful to get council's discussion before it goes through the final round.
So I would recommend, if you want to talk about these, that you simply vote no in the vote to table.
And then just discuss it and table it at the end. Okay.
So is there any further discussion around whether or not we table these motions? Brooke?
Question. If we table them, we don't get a chance next meeting to talk about them?
We will. We will get the chance. Well, they'll be tabled until the next meeting. Yeah. But yeah, if you had things that you wanted to say about these policies, any amendments that you wanted to suggest, any criticisms, then I would recommend voting no in the table motion. So is there any further discussion around the tabling of CD&E, committee policy, facility ops, and union rules? Jamal?
This would anyway be a discussion when it comes back from Bob's.
Pardon? Sorry, I didn't hear
Once
you.
it comes back from Bob's, it anyways it's discussion in council and then it's voted on. Right.
Yes, because the ones you might get back from Bob's may be drastically different. And again, I wouldn't want to pressure council to vote for them at the same meeting.
So wouldn't it make sense having a discussion of what changes the council feels is important, then going to the Bob's and then coming to the council and voting on it, rather than Bob's saying this is good and we say no, this is not good, going back to the Bob's again? I don't know. That's what made sense to me.
So there's two clarifications there. A, you can send me an email with all amendments, and that's super helpful because we can just literally just plug it in. And that's one way you can still give, you don't have to wait till council meetings to give that feedback. And B, another thing was being cognizant of the meeting time. Elections policy is the most significant policy on the agenda for tonight, only because the CRO is actually here to announce a proposed set of dates. So if the elections policy is I guess if something happens to that tonight, then it'll actually change the entire schedule of dates that the CRO has set up. So that's part of the reason why as well.
Okay, so there was no one else on the speakers list. Does the motion have a second? Jen? Okay, so the motion to table requires a simple majority. Simple majority. And a yes vote means that that discussion on these three policies will be tabled until the next meeting. A no vote means that we continue on with discussion on each of these policies. We have a quorum. Hold on. I'm counting 19 right now.
No.
I know John Hutton went to the bathroom or something.
He's coming back.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Well, we don't have a quorum right now.
I can go retrieve someone.
Is he literally in the washroom?
He's somewhere up there.
Well,
I can't, sorry, there's 20.
am I in common encounter? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Alex still counts.
Right.
Even without
I don't count.
You don't count.
No.
Right. Sorry, count.
So, my apologies. I didn't count Alex here, so that's fine. Okay, so the vote is whether or not to table these until the next meeting. A yes vote means they're tabled. A no vote means we continue with the discussion. And that's for all three policies. So barring any further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Would anyone like their abstentions or dissents noted in the minutes? All right. Let's talk about elections policy then.
Okay. So now we have an hour to go through elections policy and take as much time as you need. So we're still gonna recess?
Right. So I'll exercise my discretion, Hannah. We won't need to vote on recess. I would take this time, John, I would take this time to pass those tidbits around, and then I would take the time to read the elections policy, and we'll come back in around, how much do we need? Maybe 5-10 minutes?
I don't need any time before I ask.
Okay, well, let's just take 5 minutes, because we probably use a break as well.
So did everybody get the amended elections policy
Yeah.
and the document with the changes? So I mean, I'll make it super quick.
Right, I just circulated the, you can speak to those changes, right? Yes.
But I mean, it's nice to have both features. But
You can speak to all the changes anyway, so I don't think we'll need, yeah, so, okay, so we'll come back in like 5 minutes, and make sure you get it, Tim. So.
Oh,
Tell you about it later. It's really cool.
I'm going to do a introduction. Just be like, if that's like cool. I don't like force people on you. Like if you want to chat about it. I'm good, man. I'm a terrible person, and I actually have to work a lot with
You're people have a lot of them.
Yeah,
You are a terrible person.
Well, but in short,
That's fine. That's fine. Then we'll blame you versus Okay, everyone, we'll get started again. We may have an issue with quorum in around 9:30 or so, but that doesn't mean that we can't deal with the elections policy now. So maybe I'll ask Rams to kindly lead us through these amendments.
All right. So, how would councillors like me to proceed? Line by line, or address the changes that were mentioned that were approved by Bobs? Because I'm assuming people maybe had a chance to review it at their, before coming today. Feedback-wise.
Hannah?
I believe in section 13, under like automatic disqualification that's in bold, it references a point 8E, and I don't see a point 8E. I don't know if I'm just missing it.
13.
Yeah. It's under, oh, maybe.
13A. E.
No. 13E, violation of campaign rules, point I, and then point IX under that.
13 sub E.
I.
Sub I. Sub 9. Okay, so that cross references. I'll just add section there. If I can. Why can I? Oh, that's the PDF. Section 8E. It cross references, and you're saying that doesn't exist?
Well, I can find it.
But I mean, is it an issue? Like,
Well,
what does 8E say?
It's an issue if it's not there.
Yeah, 8E isn't there. You're right. So the question is whether or not like that's a misreference or whether it should just be removed
Well,
altogether.
it's entirely new from this round of law.
You're quite right. And so 13E sub I sub 9. So this can
be deleted. That was a thing that we drafted, and then Bob's threw it, so we should have also thrown it. It was a nomination process for the BPFO, which was found to not comply with policy. So that was in addition to that.
So let's pull up on the screen. Let's take a look at that.
80 was.
So the amendment 13 deals with automatic disqualifications for the candidates. Now, to my understanding of what that clause is meant to do, so basically this is criteria for violating campaign rules. Andrew, do you just want to go up a bit? So this is around automatic disqualifications.
Violations of the following nature will result in automatic disqualification, and it lists 9 of them, and the 9th one is the failure of the BPFO to attend a mandatory interview process that does not actually exist.
Yes, sorry, yeah, you're right. The CRO is correct. The Bob's chose to throw out this clause because, as Bob's indicated, there is no mandatory interview process.
Okay. So, given that section 13 sub E sub I sub 9 is necessarily incidental, and I'm looking at Lee, to a section that does not exist, I would say that we don't need a motion to delete it. It's simply inoperative by virtue of the fact that it cross-references a subsection that doesn't exist. So I would simply recognize that this is gone.
Point of information.
Yes.
I'm just confused. So the BOPs, I know that point is not supposed to be there. So the BOPs decided that there should not be an interview process for the VPFO.
Yes.
So does the BOPs decision become final, or that comes to the council and then we have a discussion of whether that is implemented?
You're absolutely right. So now the discussion happens whether that's recommendations of the.
So I'm not sure if we decide that Bob said we do not have a process, so the VPFO doesn't follow policy, which needs to be discussed in the council first, and then it gets amended, if I'm right.
So yes, BOPS is recommending to you that there should not be a mandatory interview process along the lines of what they first presented to you at the last council meeting. So what was presented at the last council meeting was a subcommittee of Board of Operations to go through that thing. So they basically retracted that recommendation. So it's entirely in your power to make a decision tonight to have an interview process.
Like you can move to.
Can I move to a discussion for 5 minutes? Or?
Just on this point?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so is that what you want to do? Did you want to like resurrect this
I would
interview
like
process?
to discuss this first because I'm not sure what the Board of Ops decision was. I just came to you right now when you actually read that point out. Unless the council was notified that the Board of Ops decided not to have a vetting process for the VPFO.
So what might help? Did you want to switch spots? Actually, you want to open your inbox because I emailed you the. So I think I'm locked in for this. So I understand we're going to a discussion around the nomination process for the PFO, so I'll provide the text for what BOPS initially suggested and what the BOPS then struck out. All right. These are the changes that are approved by BOPS. So, of course, delete member in good standing. That's good. That's good. Let's move to the change around the nomination process. So this is what used to exist. Let me move this right. Just zoom bottom right. Good.
Keep going.
Still can't believe it.
Keep going.
So this is what was initially proposed. The nomination process for the Vice President, Finance and Operations shall take place according to the following. Candidates choosing to run for the VPFO must interview with the subcommittee of the Board of Operations chaired by the current VPFO and consisting of 2 non-executive members of the Board of Operations. The subcommittee shall post interview guidelines no later than 2 weeks before the beginning of the nomination period, and the subcommittee shall consult the GM and controller to finalize question posting. This was. Oh yes, and the answers to the questions are posted online no later than 6 hours at the start of the campaign.
Jamel?
Just a point of, so is this a discussion that we are having right now, or we are just continuing with the presentation?
No, this is a discussion on elections policy as a whole, sir.
Okay, so if I remember really well, around John's motion when he had to actually amend the constitution of having a VPFO being elected, the main discussion point was having an interview process for the VPFO. So like there was a discussion around that as well. So when we make a VPFO as an elected position, can we have an interview for a VPFO and things like that? That's what I mean.
So I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Sorry?
I don't want to interrupt.
So under that influence, I voted yes, that I want a VPFO to be elected, considering the fact that there might be or there may be a vetting process where the elections, where the VPFO position will be run through a vetting process. So if that was a discussion around and now the Board of Ops says that that's not a good option, then I'm sorry to say that's not something that I would agree to with the Ops.
Oh, okay, so can I take it that you want to move to put those back in? And you can think about that while I recognize Kate.
Well,
Unless you
it's a
wanna-
point of information. It was, what was the Board of Operations reasoning behind taking this out?
The reasoning was, and I wish Ali was here to speak to this, she was board op chair, but, and I can forward people the minutes from that meeting as well, where that decision was made. It came around the idea that there isn't any sort of interview process for any other candidates that run for election, and we should trust the general membership enough to know, based on the quality of a person's campaign and the kind of points that they're making, that that they could discern who had financial capability and who didn't. Just the same way, for example, you can't discern whether Danny knows how to organize an event, whether Jen has the ability to manage societies, whether I have the ability to organize meetings, right? Like it's and what was felt was that there should be a set of general questions posed to candidates, similar to the format that was already existing for candidate Q&As that happen during elections. So maybe some general questions that can be asked to all candidates and then posted somewhere. And that, as at the discretion of the CRO, you don't need a policy for that. So, and that might change year to year. So, so CRO, for example, this year can have a questionnaire released if they so choose around this, but there's no set, we shouldn't constrain that by policy. So that was the rationale.
So did you, yes, or sure, Caleb?
I was just gonna say, Jamel doesn't want to. I would like to motion to have that nomination process be brought back in, despite the fact that the Board of Ops wanted to take it out.
So simply you want to take verbatim what was cut out and put it back in? Here, maybe I'll do this. Okay. So that was an 80. Here we go. So it's like that.
Just quickly, I don't want to leave, but I have to go to work in the law building at 9, so that's why I'm leaving. I apologize, guys.
Tell me somebody else knows a counselor that can come here because we have to approve these tonight for the election. Can't have to.
Just no one else leave.
Okay, so Caitlin, this is the text of what.
Lock the door.
This is the text as it is right here. Oh. And then we have, like, maybe before I take you down to 13E I9, I'll ask you if you're satisfied with this wording.
I think so. We passed it to Board of Ops similarly, so I think that's fine.
Okay, and so the second part of this amendment that you're offering, this is such a long document.
Welcome to our world.
Read that. When you're done, can you go back to the first one again?
Hold on.
Oh.
So 13E I, here we go, 9. So you want to bring this back.
Yes.
So, there we go. Okay, so does that motion have a seconder? Jamel?
Point of information.
Yes.
Do we have to justify now why we're gonna do this question process with one executive vote, position and not the others? Is that gonna be something that we now have to, from what Ron's has said?
I have John.
And do we have justification for that?
John?
I'll be voting no for this amendment, and here's why. I do not think that having, as it was mentioned, having an interview process for just one of the positions is a fair thing. But I also have concerns with the fact that staff would have influence on who is able to run and who is not. I think that having a questionnaire geared towards VPFO candidates to be posted publicly would be a great resource for students. If students are the ones deciding this, not a committee. By this I mean the VP Finance for the next year. So with that in mind, to make the process as open as possible, trusting students to be able to make their own decisions, I think that publicly posting questionnaire is a great idea. having a committee which includes non-elected, non-students is not the right way to go.
I just need a clarification. The amendment is the entire, like every, like for every, what's one particular part of the amendment called? What would we're referring to right now? Is that a sub-amendment?
So it's amending sections 13 sub E, sub I, sub 9, and adding 8 sub E. This is the motion.
And right, and the amendment is it's going to be all of them put together. Like every change that you're trying to make to this policy that's the amendment as a whole, like just terminology-wise.
Okay, so terminology-wise, there's a motion from Rams, okay, to adopt all of these textual changes as a whole, okay? That was a document that I circulated around 6:40. And so Caitlin has offered an amendment to that motion, amending these 2 sections.
Okay.
That's how I would clarify the terminology. So next on the speakers list is Danny.
I don't think I have my hand.
No? Okay, Hannah.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with what was just said. I would prefer it to be sort of a questionnaire style thing that was sent out and the candidates could just fill out, and maybe even say like technically oriented questions, because I think that was one of the concerns that came up when we originally decided to vote, is that many of the questions they were asked in the interview weren't like related to the main reason we wanted to have an interview process, which is the technical nature of the position. So instead of it being an interview process, saying that they shall like complete a set of questions which are of technical nature that should be posted.
So that would be in the section in 13, right? It's an 8? Okay. Sorry. Okay. So (8)(e)(c), the subcommittee shall consult the GM and controller to finalize questions posed to candidates. So you want to say that they're...
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the exact wording. If people are in favor of that general idea, I would propose that we move to an unmoderated caucus to get the wording straightened out.
So what do people think of that? Do they have any? Do you have a suggestion on the wording of that, or do you want to speak to something else?
I just want to speak to it as a whole.
Okay, but we need to nail down this wording because Hannah wants to make an amendment but is not sure about the wording. So,
I would like to, like, if Caitlin, if it's directly related to that.
Yeah.
Well, it's more so that I kept the original wording in the motion just to have something in place that the VPFO has to do extra, because during the AGM, that was everyone's major concern, was that there needed to be something in place, a questionnaire with technically based questions that the VPFO had to answer, and that those answers be provided publicly. I don't care if it's a committee that does it, if it's a survey that everyone wants, that's totally fine. I just think there needs to be something extra for such an important position, especially because this is the first year it's being elected.
before I recognize other speakers, I want to ask people just to stick on topic when I ask you to stick on topic. We need to nail down the wording of Hannah's motion before we can proceed here, because otherwise people are just going to get confused. So you want to make the questions that are posed to the candidates, you want to make them like of a more technical nature, right?
Yeah, and then instead of it being an interview, that just there is a set question that they come up with, and then they're given the opportunity to like write down answers and submit the answers.
Point of information?
Yes.
Is it not the case already that every candidate goes through a public interview that's recorded and posted to the website, that's organized by the CRO based on the constitutional duties of the candidates?
I don't know how that helps us with what the wording of Hannah's motion is going to be.
Point of order? Okay, so currently on the floor, we have a motion which would create a committee which would interview potential candidates. What's being proposed by Hannah is that we have not a committee, but a questionnaire. So if we wanted to get to a questionnaire, we'd actually have to totally alter the spirit of the motion, which case we'd make some meetings. So here's what I propose to the chair. We do a temperature check on one of three options. We could do nothing, we could do committee, or we could do a questionnaire. Based on which one we actually like, so say if we pick one based on this non-binding poll of council right now, if we decide we want a committee, we can go with this motion and amend it as needed. If we decide we want something else, like a questionnaire, we vote down this motion, then put forward a new one.
Point of information.
Yes.
So the committee is for?
No, there's a motion on the table to create a committee right now.
You get 3 options, right?
As I see it, there might be 4th or 5th options, but it's just do it as normal, as was just any other executive candidate. Do interviews through a committee, or have a questionnaire.
Reps.
I can make amendments to Ron what Hannah wants. All right, strike A.
I'm looking at Hannah after each time he's speaking. This is your motion, right? So I want to make
Okay.
sure that this is okay with you.
Okay, I mean, I would propose we move to an unmoderated caucus so it's easy to get lots of people.
That's basically the same thing that John suggested. So I mean, that's fine. I want to work out, I just want people to know what they're talking about before we have a debate about this, right? Like, we understand that there are options around how the VPFO is nominated. Whether or not there's no extra qualifications, just like for all the other exec, or if there is a committee that is going to ask some questions, or the third option, I guess John said, was there's a questionnaire that they're administered. So if people have ideas about this, then I'd welcome them, Alex.
Yeah, if there is a questionnaire, would there still not have to be a committee to review said questionnaire? Or who would look at that questionnaire?
Elections committee.
The elections committee, yeah.
If my opinion is valid.
And it is.
I'd say that I agree with the questionnaire idea rather than having a committee to interview.
Dylan?
We're just less qualified to make the questionnaire. The people on Bob's deal with stuff, GM and the controller are the most qualified people around to administer the questions. So that's.
Rams and then here.
There's two simple edits that will get people the questionnaire solution that they want. Strike A, and then just change this. The subcommittee shall post a questionnaire no later than 2 weeks. So all that would say is that the nomination process for the VPFO shall take place according to the following. Subcommittee shall post a questionnaire no later than 2 weeks before the beginning of the nomination period. The subcommittee shall, or the Board of Operations shall consult the GM and controller to finalize questions for the candidates, and the answer to the question must be posted online no later than 6 hours before the campaign. So the fastest thing.
So you're suggesting that that's how we would do it if we wanted to go with the questionnaire route, right? Hema, you wanted to say something?
I was just confused about the questionnaire. So with the questionnaire, is it that, so like whoever's going to create the questions, then the candidates are going to answer it, and then like, is there a wrong answer? So like if you answer wrong, are you not allowed to run? There's like whatever you answer is just going to be posted online and everyone's still go. You know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna like have a response. Like the point of the questionnaire is to kind of publicize to everyone their technical skill or their opinion on that, and then it's up to everyone to judge that, and that's how what's gonna make them vote.
I have Alex and then Andrew and then Rebecca.
The way I look at it is it would be questions that the public would not be likely to have the general assumed knowledge to ask the person who's running for that. And therefore, it would be made public, and then them not having asked those questions, they can look up what those questions mean and why people are asking those questions and what they have to do with qualifications.
I have 4 on the speakers list, starting with Andrew.
I was essentially echoing that same point, but it presumes that they know. I before working in council didn't know what a VPFO did. I couldn't speak to their qualifications or what types of skills they needed. I don't know if I would look at a list of questions that they're answering and be like, oh, this guy's way more qualified than this guy, or if it's just going to be all jargon, which I don't understand. In which case, I'm going to go for the person who is probably most familiar.
Rebecca?
Yeah, I guess I'd just say that my experience in the election process, like any society could give a questionnaire to candidates that they fill out anyway. So this doesn't need to like necessarily be in the policy. Like any society should just ask the candidate.
I have Joe Mel. Dylan?
Can I do that? So on yours, it would be mandatory instead of, that's the only difference. Putting in policy survey. And what was the other thing? Oh, the technical. It's more based on experience working with finances than like pointing at something on a budget sheet. So like broad questions that would deal with their experience working with finances rather than their actual ability. I mean, if they worked in finance and still have no idea, then it's not going to do that any good. But it's good. Yeah.
Jennifer?
I think like similar to what Rebecca was saying, I think that we can trust the student body to choose the right candidates. We already go through a process of public question periods, multiple on every campus. And those are all recorded and all of the minutes are put online. Like that's very thorough. All of the questions come directly from the Constitution in terms of like what the VPFO actually does is clearly laid out in the Constitution. It's also important to remember that we have like an accounting department who does all of the financial details. We have professional auditors that we pay. And so the VPFO position, it's really important that the general membership chooses who's in that place. They do have all of the resources available to them to make those financial decisions.
Jamal?
So I would just like to echo what you said, that the whole point of adding those wordings back was to have something in place. It is not that just to drill the VPFO position down and not run for an election. I wasn't aware that societies are able to post their questions and the VPFO or any candidate can reply to those. So that's a great way of knowing. So maybe we don't really need an interview process. About the questionnaire thing as well, before that, I also like the idea when she said, how is it justified just to have an interview process for just one exec and not for the others? So that's also something that does have an argument to that point. The other thing is about questionnaire. I'm not sure if the questionnaire is just limited to the VPFO or is it to all the execs or I don't know. Okay, for that it's just the VPFO.
You could add to the
Floor is open.
If the questionnaire, as you mentioned it, is more just experience based, I think it would make sense if that was going to be brought in at all to have it be for all executives. Just based on experience.
I think I can do that. Under the policy now, you wouldn't have to add anything, it just wouldn't be mandatory for them to answer. So you just look bad if you didn't do it. Yeah.
Could you not make the rules say that this particular rule this year is mandatory? Is that not?
I guess so.
I mean, I know some things were, but
yeah. I don't know if I can add reasons for disqualification, but it can be a finable thing.
Okay.
So a maximum fine of $20. So.
So I don't know if I can say that there's any real consensus here, but I mean, this is a very fruitful discussion. But does anyone else want to?
Is there a way? So do we want to amend this to be general for all candidates? Like, is that needed then? Or do we just,
What do people think about that?
I don't think so. I think that if the CFO says that he can do that anyway, then if you deem it necessary, then have that be done and then not necessarily have to amend the policy.
Kind of information. So do it like do what?
Put in a questionnaire for all execs and for any execs.
So we're saying that we're not having a mandate that there's going to be a questionnaire. It's just that the CRO is saying that we will do it. Are we giving it that way, or we're actually putting a mandate that there will be a questionnaire for all the execs?
You don't need a mandate to get the CRO to do that. The council can request and the CRO has to do it, like in that sense. So you don't need to put in policy that the CRO will put out a questionnaire.
But you would for them to answer, right?
Yeah, and you had a good point about the penalty. That's the only thing you can do.
Any other thoughts on questionnaires versus subcommittees versus nothing? I mean, it's difficult to sort of gauge what sort of wording we're going to get out of this, which is why I'm satisfied to leave it in the mover's hand as to how we word this amendment, if there's no further discussion on this.
I would move
Yeah, or sorry, it was Caitlin. Sorry.
I would definitely take up the whole committee thing, but I really think that there needs to be it stated that it's mandatory that the VPFO do this questionnaire, especially because it was something that was brought up in the AGM, and part of the reason that many of the constituents voted for it was that they were under the impression that something would be created. So even if it's just a line that the VPFO has to fill the questionnaire, or if you feel as CRO that you could make that happen. But I think just putting it in policy like really reflects well that we're trying to do our due diligence to make this change as efficient as possible. Okay, strike A, and for B, the subcommittee?
This one
Yeah, the subcommittee shall post a questionnaire.
shall
Maybe
post.
the ERO approved by the Board of Operations.
Yeah, that would work.
Say that again.
So the ERO.
How about I just do it this way?
Sorry, the CRO.
Sorry.
The CRO shall post a questionnaire with questions approved by the Board of Operations and Council.
Amy has a point of information.
I have a quick question. So when you said that when people voted the GM to say because they assumed that there was going to be something.
They just assumed, because when we were talking about the motion at the AGM, one of the things that was brought up was that we've been discussing in council and the Board of Operations to create like an interview process, some sort of vetting process to ensure that the candidates running for VPFO could handle the job. One of the things was a interview committee. Another one was a questionnaire. So I think that the questionnaire is.
But like that was part of my first question when I asked, does this vet or does this just post the answers like anyone else that gives them questionnaires?
It doesn't actually vet the candidate because they can still run even if they don't like answer the questions correctly, but it gives more information on their financial experience to constituents, that questions that they may not have thought to ask.
So wouldn't that be different than what people voted on at the general meeting and what the understanding of they thought people were going to be vetted?
No, it's not, because Ali, the chair of the Board of Operations, actually said the questionnaire process is what they endorse.
Anna?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to move forward with some wording if you are good with that. So I would say maybe pose a questionnaire to the candidates. Like responses shall be okay to candidates. Questions shall focus on technical requirements of the position and shall be approved by the Board of Operations.
Questions shall be of a technical nature, shall be approved.
Yeah, that's actually clause B. So I want to get
Well, let's just do it this way then.
Could the CRO perhaps suggest a logical time frame ahead of the election period that it would be posted, given that the answer should be online 6 hours after the start of the meeting?
It says 2 weeks.
So it would be posed, so they'd have to answer them.
Yeah.
You have to put that they have to answer them as another clause. And then, I don't know.
You want to speak to that?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, if you put 2 days before the start of camp, or at the close of that,
For them to answer that?
for them to submit their answer. So you add.
Candidates must submit their answers at least 24 hours before campaigning period?
Yes.
This is a general comment I have about instructions, like directions. They almost never in the policy say what happens if you don't do it.
This is under the section automatic disqualification.
That's why we added 13, the one that was there when it shouldn't have been.
And that makes reference to sub E. Okay, so that takes care of that problem. So candidates must submit answers.
For completed questionnaire.
Yeah, exactly.
A minimum of 2 days prior to
You put it at the close of
the
nomination.
beginning of nomination period.
If you put it at the close of nomination period, then we have 2 days between.
Candidates must submit a completed questionnaire to the CRO.
We have 2 days between nominations and campaign. So it could be 2 days and 6 hours. So that's.
Mackenzie's had her hand up for quite a while.
Just going back to A, I'm just wondering if we're going to be asking questions, if the questions are going to be of a technical nature or if they're going to be more based on experience, because I think that's what something we were talking about before. We talked about how constituents might not be able to understand answers to technical questions, whereas if the questions are based on experience, it would be easier to understand.
We could just say technical and experiential nature.
Yeah, I couldn't quite hear you, but I don't know if this fixes it. Questions relating to the technical requirements of the job. So that could also be like, what experience do you have with this?
Of the position.
Yeah.
Okay.
So B should be the close of nominations, no later than the close of nominations.
Perfect. Right. So when is the CRO posing this questionnaire?
It says later 2 weeks in C.
Sorry, opposing.
Oppose. Oh, I don't know.
What are people's thoughts on that? Yeah, Jen.
I'd like to suggest that instead of the close of nominations, that we give candidates 24 hours after nominations to submit it. Like there's 5 days of campaigning, right? And so all of the other candidates will receive multiple questionnaires, including these candidates from different societies. And so it makes sense to me that they would have a minute to fill out these questions.
No, so they'd be online 2 weeks before nominations. So generally people would know if they're going to run. So then essentially they'd hand it in with their nomination sheet as BPFO. You know, when you go down to your nomination sheet for the election, you'd have your signatures and the questionnaire filled out based on your experience. I mean, I don't think people need that bad. And then I have 2 days instead of 1 to write them all in.
Hannah?
Yeah, that's exactly pretty much what I was going to say, except if you give them out with nominations.
Okay. So the 2 weeks is fine. Yeah, but it's.
But it should be A.
Oh.
Yeah, it should be an A, exactly. Yeah. The CRO shall close a questionnaire to candidates no later than 2 weeks before the beginning of the nomination period, containing questions relating to the technical requirements of the position, which shall be approved by the Board of Operations.
So before we changed all this, the lawyer, our lawyer, I guess, had made a change at the beginning where it says the BPFO shall take place according to the following. So it should say the nomination process for the BPFO shall also require that instead of take place according to.
Yep, because that replaces everything else if it says shall take place according to the following. Yeah, so the nomination process for the VPFO shall also have the following requirements. Yep. Lawyers are smart. Okay.
Is that it? Andrew, sorry, no, is that the language?
I mean, they added a clause that the candidate shall answer all the questions, but submitting a completed.
So yeah, the plain wording of that suggests that
Exactly.
anything that's not complete is not fulfilling the requirement.
And then post it online if you want to add that it's my responsibility to the posting. At the minimum on the DSU election website, another thing that was added by the way.
The CRO.
If you add at the bottom, so if you go by the CRO at the minimum on the DSU election website instead of in the middle, like after campaign, just put it all.
So
delete all that at the
doing
end,
what you
say
just did.
by the CRO on the election.
The CRO, you're saying that it's you that has to.
The answers.
Yeah, but if you add it at the end instead of where you just started, you backtrack and then go after campaigning, put by the CRO at the minimum on the elections website.
I want to avoid passive tense, right? So the active is the CRO post answers. The CRO.
I'm not a lawyer. You go ahead.
Neither am I. This guy. The CRO shall post, and the wording should be consistent. So the CRO shall post the completed questionnaires. Can't spell questionnaires.
Elections website.
Yeah. And then at the end, can you put
On the elections website. And then website. No later than 6 hours after the start of campaign. Yep.
Sounds good.
You had something else?
I think there was a minimum.
It's cool. That's the only place.
So, okay, we can trust the CRO to do things that are required of him. Did you have your handy? No. Does anyone else have any suggestions? Like, did you have something else there, Dylan?
Just make sure that this goes hand in hand with the 13.
Yeah.
EIX.
So, yeah. I appreciate everyone's patience here. And I'll note that it's 9:27.
Oh Lord, can I motion while we're in the middle of this?
To do?
To extend the meeting?
By how long?
10 minutes? 15 minutes?
Seconded by?
20 minutes.
Caitlin, did anyone else have any other?
What was that extension?
15. So anyone else have any other
I have to
suggestions?
go, so that means I have to go.
Yeah.
But Amelia
Yeah.
We're at 21. Only have.
I think when you count it, you count as somebody who's not a voting
No,
member.
Okay, so right now, hold on.
Also need to go home.
No.
I already told them.
I like, yeah.
We have 21 right now.
The two of them are.
So we need 20.
Okay, so the motion is to extend by 15 minutes. If we don't have quorum, we don't have quorum. Does anyone else have any other suggestions on how long we should be staying here?
I would just suggest we pass elections policy, perhaps we can table Mahboob's presentation around the budget, you know, if that's a compromise. Sorry, Mahboob.
So the motion is to extend the meeting until such time as we don't have quorum. Is that what you're saying?
So like motion to extend that, how long is this gonna take, like 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
It shouldn't.
Until we're finished with the site plan.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Okay, and then, yeah, so does anyone have any other suggestions, or is that?
I called the question.
Yeah, okay, so, all, sorry, Hannah?
Just to the section.
We need to pass the policy.
No, it's all policy that needs to be passed, right?
For me?
It's all the policy that needs to be passed.
Okay.
And I'm sorry that I'm not recognizing you're calling the question, John.
I
but we
have
need to handle it.
one more. Well.
Okay, so the motion is to extend time until
Okay.
such
Yeah,
time
yeah,
as we finish dealing with the elections policy. Caitlin?
I seconded.
No, it's already been seconded. We're voting on it right now. So all those in favor of extending the time? All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So we were going back to Dylan, 13EI9, the failure of the VPFO candidates to attend to comply
with requirements of 80.
Yeah. There you go. Words. Section 8, you're up. Okay. Any other suggestions? So, okay, this is the motion that's been moved by Caitlin then, right? So does this motion have a seconder?
Second.
Anna. Right. So this is what's on the floor right now. Did you have any other suggestions, Dylan?
No,
Just to this, the VPFO portion?
No, that should be functional.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other comments or suggestions about this VPFO business? Okay. Does everyone understand what's being voted on? We have. I'm wasting time just scrolling here, but we're adding AD, okay, which outlines this requirement that the CRO poses a questionnaire to the candidates no more than 2 weeks before the nomination process, before the beginning of the nomination period. How do you pose a questionnaire to candidates if they haven't been nominated yet?
Well, it's just out there, so it will come back with a complete nomination. Same as they can do it in a 2-day nomination period. You know what I mean? It would be a mandatory part of the nomination.
So what's really going on is that you're posting it on the website.
Yeah,
right?
so shall post a questionnaire on the DSU elections website.
That's true.
No later than 2 weeks before the beginning of the nomination period, containing questions relating to the technical requirements of the position, which shall be approved by the Board of Operations. And so the Board of Operations needs to be apprised of the fact that they're going to have to approve of this questionnaire in advance of 2 weeks before the nomination period opens, or else the whole thing falls apart, right? Or else you can't post anything. So that's something that Allie needs to be aware of. And then candidates submit the completed questionnaire no later than the close of nominations, and then the CRO posts the answers 6 hours after the start of the campaign, no later than that. HEMA.
So, just one question. As this is written right now, the nomination is following requirements ABC, and C is on the CRO. So if he messes up, the BPFO is disqualified.
That's the question I had in my mind when I made the comment that we can rely on the CRO to fulfill the requirements of the CRO, right? That's why I made that comment.
You could add it under the CRO duties too. We didn't do it before because it was the Board of Operations.
So like the wording as is right now, that's what it means, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that C imposes any requirements on the VPFO, right? So I wouldn't say that if the CRO fails to do that the candidates are disqualified, right? I'm offering an interpretation on elections policy right now, so maybe I shouldn't even be doing that, but that's still how I read that section. Like if the CRO doesn't post questionnaires on the website, and completed questionnaires, that doesn't disqualify the candidates, right? It begs the question why it's there in the first place, but I think it serves as guidance to the CRO. I think that's the purpose.
Maybe that should be the question.
So where does it go then?
Can we leave it there?
I don't think you need to because it's covered by your overall organizing elections duties.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't suspect that someone's going to try to disqualify the VPFO on the basis that the CRO posted it 6.5 hours after the campaign started.
It's
Also,
it's
it's
not
not
in spirit.
In any case, it's not me who's offering an interpretation on elections policy that's binding, it's the CRO. So if the CRO is agreeing with me, then if that sounds right to you, then
You guys can change it next year before November 5th. And for this year, it'll be fine. If you approve.
yeah. So, I mean, are there any other suggestions to the VPFO portion of this elections policy? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a vote whether or not to make amendments to 80 and 13 EI9, right? 80 sets out this process, and 13 EI9 says if the VPFO doesn't comply with it, then they're automatically disqualified. Does anyone not understand what they're voting on? Sorry, I should scroll down more. Right there. failure of the VPFO candidates to comply with the requirements of Section 80. Violations of the following nature will result in automatic disqualification. Yeah, and so that's one of the things. So does anyone not understand what we're voting on? Okay. Satisfied that no one is brave enough to say that they don't know what's going on, we'll move to a vote whether or not to adopt these amendments, establishing a questionnaire for VPFO candidates. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes?
Yeah.
Kima and Jennifer both abstained? You both dissented? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I'm sure you had other suggestions to the policy, Dylan?
Okay. So under 6AB, we're just adding responsibility to me and the committee to organize an elections promotion campaign beginning in the fall semester. Which I don't know why you wouldn't approve.
6. Oh, Jesus.
Sorry, I know. There's subsections of subject.
Oh my God.
Really?
There's got to be a better way. 6 sub A sub B. The CRO shall appoint. No, that's not it.
Yeah.
It is it?
So B.
Oh, sub 2. Okay. Organize an elections promotion campaign beginning in the fall semester. Okay.
Simple. Just to improve turnout. Is that cool? Do we vote on each one? Or
No, they're all before. Like this amendment by Rams was seconded, so it's probably before Council Hand.
Can I just another quick one? 'Cause it's close. In 6BA.
6
Yeah, it's right there. The rest of the recruitment committee they were changed to the nominating committee, so I believe that should be nominating committee.
That I don't think we need an amendment for that. Brother?
I have one that's not but in the 5A, it says
5A.
it says that orange print that says candidates running for office must also be in good standing in accordance to 3A. So 3A gets scratched.
It certainly did, and so this, by necessary implication, is also struck.
Do we start with 3A? We did delete that.
We did. Hannah?
I just have a question about 6BF.
6B. 6 sub B sub F sub
VII.
sub 6 or sub 7. Okay.
7, yeah. So I was just kind of confused about the part about the CRO not being paid until the report was submitted, because in an earlier section there was a part about like half of it being submitted. Do we care about that?
I'm gonna do it.
So this, for clarity, this section lays out the CRO's responsibilities, and it's saying the CRO shall not be paid until a report is submitted to the policy communications coordinator.
In something else, it said that I would get half and then get half when it's completed. But
okay.
In the, I think, committee policy or something.
I don't know. I read somewhere else something that seems fun.
It doesn't matter anyway.
It might matter, right? We don't want it to be contradictory. So do you know where that is, though, Hannah?
No.
Yeah, I know I read it somewhere too, but
I think in the committee policy that we but I don't know what section. Not in this policy.
You, I think you're right. Committee policy. Is it committee policy?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that lays out elections.
Just recommend that change with committee policy when it gets reviewed at BOPS.
So we should
you
ignore
change
that.
to be in line with this.
And so for clarity, that's section 3 of the elections committee portion of committee policy. You have something else, Hannah?
Yeah, this one's a little bit more substantial, and I'm sorry if you guys don't want to discuss it, that's fine. I think that there should still be someone, and this is also in the committee policy, that one of the members is like a faculty, like has that under their responsibilities, and though we may be taking out like the requirement of doing faculty elections through the DSU, some faculties may opt to do it that way, so they should still have someone that they can report to. So I don't think we should take it out all over the place, which is what this is proposing.
So that was struck right here, right? In 3F. But there are also other changes like elsewhere in the document.
Yeah, all through the document.
Okay, so I mean, this before I recognize Rams, this seems to me like another discussion that would be best served by an unmoderated caucus, because of the different sections that are affected elsewhere in policy.
Hannah, what's the intent of what you're trying to?
Yeah.
So the faculty level council representative, I don't believe should be struck, is, I guess, what my intent is.
Okay, so Hannah's raised this point about faculty level societies elections. What are people's thoughts on that? Rams?
No, I'm still not clear. So striking that, what does that imply? Like, what's that? Like, what does that concern that you have? If you strike this, then what are your concerns?
My concerns is that the faculties that are running their elections through the DSU should have someone that is there to make sure that they're running their elections in accordance and facilitate that, which is the position that's being taken out.
So, might I suggest two things? So, in society policy, an amendment is there, if I'm not mistaken, that says societies can request that their elections be organized to support the union, and that would mean, and then we can add the clause saying that it's responsible for the CRO or DRO to oversee those elections. So that's all you really need, as you know.
Sorry, is that in the elections policy?
No, I was saying that's amendment to society policy. So that basically what that would say is that society elections would be run with the elections would be run overseen by the CRO, along the guidelines mentioned in elections policy.
And so that wouldn't contravene bylaw 8, section 13 or section 11, right? It wouldn't come under this 4-month
No.
prohibition.
You wouldn't change elections policy.
Exactly.
Society policy.
So what Rams is saying is that maybe what you want can be accomplished without changing elections policy, but you probably disagree.
Okay, so in the current amendments we have to committee policy, in the elections committee in section 2B, it has, and one who shall be selected by the CRO to oversee faculty-based society elections. So my confusion is, why are we adding that to committee policy at the same time we're taking away that position from the election policy? It's in there as one of the people on the elections committee. We should also have it in this document.
Yeah, and I guarantee you the boss will strike that off in the review without entire reason. Unless you wanted to do that, that's a completely different thing. But yeah, that was not going to be there anymore when it came to council.
So I mean, Hannah has raised this point, and I want to allow other councillors the opportunity to share their thoughts on society and faculty level elections. Jamel.
I'm not sure if that's possible, but I think with respect to levying societies, when you get a levy increase from 17,000 students in DAL, it makes sense to have an online election that follows the DSU election policies because it's really necessary. I was in one of the meetings where there were only 7 people in a board election meeting and people voting for themselves and becoming board members, which I don't find it equally representing all the DAL students at Dalhousie, and I would highly push for levying societies having a mandate that elections during the, like, at least, I may be framing it wrong, but I think there needs to be a serious discussion as well. But I think at least not while during DSU elections, mandate for running an online election for levying societies, because, yeah, sorry.
Jennifer.
Yep, so that's all in society policy, and in society constitutions, and so like that's taken care of. Like societies do have specific guidelines as to how they have to run their elections.
So sorry. So if a society, so I'm not sure. So I need your guidance on that. So when a councillor suggests that we can have something like this, like levying societies can run their elections, may have to run their elections online. If that's an amendment that comes to the society policy, like a mandate. So that's made in the society policy or in the elections policy?
Society policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
but it would be relevant to have someone who oversees that on the elections.
Yeah, that was my
But it
point.
would be, so that would be what we're saying is that would be the CRO or the DRO. And so that would cover more than just faculty level societies. That would cover like all type 1 societies, which includes faculty level and levied societies. Do you know what I mean? And residence councils.
Rams?
It may be a simple matter. I mean, just for right now times, like I know we promised technology soon. So we can add under the duties of the CRO right now a line that says the CRO must be responsible for overseeing any faculty society elections that are requested. Right? And that still means the society policy like changes will have to happen 100%. But if you're concerned about that there's nobody overseeing or responsible for society elections, you can easily add the job description.
Jamal?
So just a quick clarification. So when you say the CRO can overlook, but he would actually overlook during the DSU election time when the faculty is having its election during the DSU elections, or at any time the faculty. Okay. I was under the impression that CRO is only for the DSU election period. So that's my bad.
November 1st and November 1st for entire year. So basically, so that gives this person more work to.
Hannah?
Okay, so I'm gonna move on from this, if that's okay.
Well, I mean, are you satisfied that that you don't want to?
I don't think it's gonna get resolved, so I'll drop it. Cool with everyone? Okay, in section 10EI, it has a comment about how it references DII and then a comment that says, I'm not sure what this is referring to. I'm also not sure what's referring to. I'm gonna take a guess at point H might make sense.
Remind me of the section again.
Okay. So you're in the right point. EI.
10 sub E sub, well, there's no A, so that's one problem. 10 sub E sub I.
Yeah.
It cross-references subsection 8 above. But what the hell does that mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say it's H. If anyone wants to make that make sense.
So this is a simple
The problem is I don't actually know that it is H. I think it makes sense if it's H.
So this is going through what happens when there's a tie vote.
Yeah. So I think what it means is if there's 3 people and there's a tie for the lowest number of people.
It's a preferential vote
Then if
situation.
you drop the 2 people, the other person wins instead of continuing on the line.
Yeah, so I'm satisfied that that's correct. So it's like that. Is anyone opposed to an amendment of that without a vote? Like, is everyone satisfied that that's actually the cross-reference that's proper? This amendment by stealth, I understand, may look sketchy. It's in the interest of transparency, actually. So I'm sure the Gazette likes the fact that I said sketchy. Jamil.
So I didn't get that. So what are we doing on that point?
So section 10 outlines the election process. Subsection E lays out in greater detail what happens with the preferential vote. Okay, and then sub I, okay, so 10 EI, or H I should say, says where 2 or more candidates are tied with the lowest number of votes, both or all shall be dropped from the remaining ballots. So that's the procedure for preferential ballot. And then the next section, I, it says, if the procedure in subsection 8 above results in only 1 candidate remaining on the ballot, then that candidate shall be declared elected. And so that's a misreference, okay? It should read, I'm saying that it should read H, okay? In the subsection above, that's a reference to H. They're saying if there are 3 candidates and if 2 or more candidates are tied with the lowest number, then both of those are dropped and the one remaining is the one who was elected. So say you have A, B, and C, okay, A gets 100 votes and B and C get 80 each, so there's no majority. You drop the lowest 2 and then the candidate that remains is elected, okay? Because with a preferential vote, you need a majority. And so Hannah's amendment is saying, okay, this subsection 8 is a misreference. It's actually a reference to subsection H, which is right here. And I'm saying it appears clear to me that that's correct, and you know we don't need to vote on it. So if anyone wishes to like contest that because they think I'm wrong or that Hannah's wrong, then I'm saying we don't need to vote for that. You had another point that you wanted to bring up, Jomel?
Sorry?
You had another suggestion? I've let Hannah speak here, but I know that you had a suggestion as well. Just for elections policy in general, you had a point.
We done with Hannah's?
Well, I mean, I don't want one person to monopolize the time that we have.
The motion to call the question.
Wait, we're not done even.
Okay, so Hannah was on the speakers list, but okay. So Hannah has a list of things that she wants.
I have one more, I promise.
Point of information. I'm not sure, but am I able to withdraw the motion?
Yes, because that hasn't been seconded yet.
I'll withdraw my
Okay, Hannah, go on.
Okay, so in E, violation of campaign
Hold on.
rules,
E what?
E, it's like close to the end. Oh, there's a number.
What's the number section?
13.
Point of information, so the H to H amendment that went through, we're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So 13.
13, E, and then subsection I.
Yeah, about disqualification.
So it's adding that these disqualifications also now refer to referenda plebiscites. And then it lists stuff like non-attendance, tampering with poster displays, spending over the maximum budget. And I don't think that really applies to a referenda since they can't not attend.
It applies to the group that's like moving the referendum question. So if it's a particular society that, or student group that's trying to get a referendum question through, it's their responsibility.
There's a yes campaign and a no campaign.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if we can clarify like what group is actually held to that standard.
This one. So this
Yeah, but
campaigns are treated as trainings, so they don't. If you're a spokesperson, you're essentially treated like a candidate.
so like how do you, so at the beginning of the period, is there like a set number of people who are supposed to go?
Yeah, so generally there's one, I think. So, or
Okay.
two. So if if those people don't attend, then
Okay.
they're treated like candidates at the same spokesperson.
Okay, that's fine.
Anything else?
Can I call the question?
Oh wait, are we on all the amendments?
Yeah, all of the amendments.
Okay. One more thing.
Well, so what, do you still want to call the question?
Because I think all the amendments in that sheet were actually already in there.
Okay. Okay.
You can still speak to them, right?
Yeah, you want to vocalize them?
The only other thing was the changing that we can provide the $200 upfront for people in need, and we'll draft an application process.
Yeah.
So it's just to not prohibit anybody from running if they don't have the $200 in campaigning expenses upfront.
So it's changed to the VPFO can provide, not
Yeah.
will provide.
It's in DA, 13DA, right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Sorry.
So it's in the VPFO's discretion.
Sure.
Case by case basis.
Yeah.
Caitlin,
Motion to call the question.
seconded by Brogan. So this requires 2/3 majority and is not subject to debate, and it would cut off debate on the elections policy as a whole, and we will move straight to a vote. So all those in favor of any debate and moving to a vote, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Would anyone like their dissents or abstentions noted in the minutes? Jomel abstained. Okay, there have been multiple amendments to elections policy. I think it would serve a purpose to list them, and so, no, I think it would, because we've added a questionnaire process for the VPFO. Help me out here. What else have we amended right now?
We added the VPFO.
Yeah, yeah, to accord with the constitutional amendment.
Exactly. We deleted member not standing.
Yep.
We added one thing to the returning officer's job to organize an elections campaign in the fall semester.
Yes.
And then we added the nomination process. Do I need to go over that?
And were there any other amendments that we just passed right
And
now?
then we added the ability to front the 200.
Right, but those are contained in the original motion, yeah. Okay, Joe, did you have a point, Jomel?
I was just checking, we are approving it as a whole, right?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
We have quorum, obviously. Where did Michael go? Did he didn't, we didn't lose quorum when he left.
We were at one point.
We talked about that.
Okay, so if we're all satisfied that we understood which amendments have been approved today and which were offered by Rams at the beginning of the meeting, then we can move to a vote on the elections policy as a whole if no one has an order or points of information. Okay, so seeing none, we'll move to a vote on elections policy as a whole. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Would anyone like their abstentions or dissents noted in the minutes? Kima was dissenting. Jomel was abstaining. Anyone else? Okay, we have an elections policy, and so Mabuse. Yep. Mabuse. The meeting's not over yet. Mabuse comments on the audited financial statements will be tabled until the next meeting. Are there any notices of motion?
The gray light's open.
Are there any announcements? Yes, Jasmine.
As a member of the Canadian Forces Primary Reserve, I just want to hope to see a good chunk of you and the community represent at Remembrance Day ceremonies this coming Tuesday. There is the Central Parade Square downtown. There is also a ceremony at Veterans Memorial Hospital where there are actual veterans there that, you know, are on their last legs. And there's also a ceremony at Point Pleasant Park if you feel like braving the wind for the Navy. All right, hope to see you.
Are there any more, Jomel?
Dalhousie Intramurals is organizing a cricket tournament in the month of Jan.
I didn't hear that.
That's been finalized.
What was that?
I didn't hear what you said.
Dal Intramurals, they're organizing a cricket tournament in the month of Jan. So, yeah, the registration should open soon.
Please remind me your name, sir.
Hi, I'm Jesse.
Jesse.
I'd like to point out that Aboriginal students rep Michelle Martin wasn't present at September 24th DSU Council meeting or the October 8th DSU Council meeting, according to the records that were sent over to us. So I'm wondering, according to Constitution, I think that means this council member is supposed to be recalled unless they sent a reason to.
Right. So which meetings are bringing up here?
Specifically, September 24th and October 8th.
Okay. So I have no reasonable excuse for Michelle for her non-attendance at either of those meetings, and so it's my duty as the chair of the council to declare her position as recalled according to section 12 of bylaw 10. So her position is vacant, and the Aboriginal Students Society will have to appoint another person's position. I'll also note that she emailed me yesterday indicating her desire to resign the position. I informed her that the only protocol for resignation, according to section 10, I think, of bylaw, I want to get this right. Section 15 of bylaw, bylaw 13, no, that's not it. Section 11 of bylaw 4 states that the only protocol for resignation is to inform the president in writing. But Rams informs me that he did not receive any such emails, so she did not resign. However, given the fact that Jesse has brought to my attention that she hasn't attended 2 meetings in a row without reasonable excuse, then her position is automatically declared vacant.
Jesse.
No, well, Jesse's the individual from the Gazette. Michelle Martin, the Aboriginal Students Representative. So we'll be instructing her society to appoint a new representative. Are there any more announcements?
Yes, for the month of November, there are health fee consultations happening. They're called What the Health. Yes. Any anyway, so basically this is students' chance to give their feedback on the, the increased fee, find out about how the money's being spent, if we're actually getting the returns that we were promised, because, there are a lot of things were promised when they raised the fees on it, so. And the other thing is, at the next council meeting, I believe the CRO will announce election dates and levy question dates. So basically, there's a schedule that I created around what the deadline should be for levy question submission. So it's currently January 16th, and I'll put that up online as well.
Are there any more announcements? Okay, well, given that we don't have quorum, we can't vote on adjourning, so the meeting is just adjourned without a vote. Thanks, everyone, for your patience.
Yeah. Right now, so basically, there might be an online, so just Google what the hell